and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim, and with me as always is...
Mark.
Mark, how are you today?
So, before we introduce our guest, Jim, I made a post on our Facebook group.
I know, I was so excited to see you actually do some promo.
It was a very disturbing post. I don't know if you saw it, Jim, but I suffered a home invasion last weekend.
Indeed you did. I was there for that.
Well, yeah, it was this guy came over, and he sounded kind of gay, and there was like two female accomplices.
Yeah, there were.
They came into my house, right? And they ate my food, and they drank my drink.
Did they really eat your food? Because if I remember correctly, you went out and bought pizza. So is it really your food?
Well, they forced me to go out and buy pizza for them and supply them with drinks and festivities.
Oh,
it was brutal.
Was it brutal, Mark? Because I seem to recall like baby metal being put on, which is brutal in and of itself.
Baby metal is great.
That is the most uncomfortable thing to watch that I've ever seen in my life. Yes, it is. So anyway, enough about you, Mark.
So anyway, for our audience, Jim and Debbie and Misty came around, and we had a good time.
We did.
And then my roof collapsed the next day. So is that coincidence? I think not.
I think not. It was completely intentional.
Plus, one of my dogs did not like Jim at all. So
yeah, Luna does not like me.
No, dogs can tell evil.
That's right. But enough about you, Mark. Let's talk about the important person in the room, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. So with us today is Timothy King. He is he is already the author, but the soon-to-be-released book, Seven Rabbits, which I'm so excited about. How are you, Timothy?
I'm fantastic. I don't know about important, though. You guys.
Well, you're more important than the other two here. There. That's all.
I'm also a little upset I didn't get invited to this apparent home invasion. I'm only like an hour away.
No, I actually mentioned you to Mark, and he's like, "No, fuck that guy."
Yeah, I locked all the doors. No, yeah, he mentioned them. That's why I reached out to you. And I'm like, "Oh, this is where I am." And you're like, "Oh, you're like an hour away." That's cool. But we're all Florida guys.
We are. We are.
Uh-oh.
You get a bunch of Florida guys in a room.
At least I'm not a Florida man. That's all I got to say. I'd much rather be a Florida guy.
Lock up your math and alligators.
Yeah, exactly. So, Timothy, please enlighten us about this book I'm so excited about. Tell us about Seven Rabbits.
Yeah, it is a home invasion slasher. A lot of people are telling me that it's giving the Strangers vibes, the original. It's so far getting great reviews out the gate. It's got, out of the first 25 of the 30 copies that I sent out early, it's got a 4.75 star rating out of 5. So that's pretty solid. Happy about that. It essentially follows a group of 7 high school football players who get into all sorts of shenanigans and are notorious around their town for abusing the girls in their school. And they, every year, at the end of the year, they take a retreat to this cabin owned by one of the rich kids, his family. And this year, things go sideways for them, and a bunch of masked men show up. That's essentially the premise of the book.
Sounds like my kind of book.
It's mine too. It's why I wrote it.
We have talked a little bit about the book itself, and there were some trigger warnings that you were a little concerned about. Do you do trigger warnings in the book, or do you just let people figure it out for themselves?
Yeah, so I did include a trigger warning list. I personally don't use trigger warnings in any of my own reading and stuff. And again, I apologize, guys. I woke up kind of sick today, so my voice sounds all raspy and out.
Yeah, you still sound like a radio announcer, so you're fine.
Perfect. All right, that's what I'm going for. Yeah, I don't really use any trigger warnings myself when I read things. I prefer to go in blind and just take whatever shocking act happens. Sometimes I wish I had a trigger warning, or I looked up the trigger warnings. But in my book, because there is a lot of really sensitive stuff, and I tackle a lot of really sensitive issues, I wanted to include that and give everybody the option. So I think it's the second or third page of the book is just all trigger warnings.
It's very much a modern thing, that, right?
Yeah. It is. there's, like I said, there's a lot of touchy stuff in there. So I wanted to make sure I gave everybody the option. I also included, because there is, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, because I know I've
You
listened
can
to
say
you
anything
guys
you
say
want.
some
Don't
stuff,
worry about it.
but
I can always take it out in editing if you need me to.
okay, perfect. There's suicide, domestic violence, and sexual violence in the book. So I did include like hotlines for the National Suicide Prevention Line, the domestic violence line, things like that,
Nice.
in case anybody ever needed it.
I'm sure readers will appreciate that.
So, and whenever I say it's a new thing, I wasn't saying that as necessarily a bad thing, but just growing up, like I'm an '80s kid, and the stuff that I saw, and we won't even bring up Jim's experience.
Oh, Jesus Christ! So Mark, you actually don't have to bring that up because Timothy actually listens to the podcast, so he's aware.
Yeah. So you know about Jim's entity.
I do. Yes. I was actually just today I was listening to the Christmas podcast that you guys did, because I started out of order. I started from the most recent one and worked my way backwards because I'm a rebel like that. Yeah, so I was listening to the Christmas one today, actually.
Right,
yeah.
we appreciate you listening.
We absolutely do. I'm so happy. You have no idea.
I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's been an awesome show, and
yep.
Jim and I have hit it off pretty well. And Mark, this is the first time you and I are actually getting to talk.
I'm sorry for
real. So
sorry for that.
Well, you know what the funny thing is, because we've had a lot of content creators on before, authors or people who are making indie movies. And the funny thing is, a lot of them want to come back on, right? And it's more just because we shoot the shit, right? And it's not planned and it's not scripted, and it's just like we all hang out. It's just such a great venue to meet new people who obviously love horror like we do. So thanks for coming on.
Yep.
Yeah, for anybody listening, I can 100% vouch for the fact that this wasn't scripted. Jim just told me, hey, you're going to be on the show at 8. Make sure you sign in.
That's all it
Here
is.
I am.
And
so, Timothy,
none of us did any preparation.
So, well, I did a little. I read this the overview of your book, and the first movie that came to mind for me, because I'm more of a movie than a book guy, was You're Next.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. More so than The Strangers, because it feels like it's like a revenge, people stuck in the house and people from the outside trying to get in. But I don't know.
Absolutely. No, that's spot on. That's another one that it keeps getting compared to. Somebody told me it was a combination of You're Next and Saw is the way that they saw it.
Interesting. Yeah, right?
I would take that as a compliment.
I would. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Timothy, this is your first book, right? So, how did you get into writing? Have you written stuff before but never published? And this is the one that you were like, I'm going to go ahead and push the boat out and do this one? Or is this something more recent? You're just like, I just want to write a book.
No, I've been writing my whole life, and a kind of a perfect storm of things came together to create this book. I remember writing before I shouldn't even say writing. I remember storytelling before I even knew how to type. I would sit there and dictate stories to my grandmother, and she would type the stories out for me. So as young as I can remember, storytelling, writing has always been a passion of mine. I fell away from it after college, with careers, kids, marriage, all the responsibilities of life. And I would write these short stories, mostly in sci-fi and fantasy. And lately I realized, the parts of those stories that I liked writing the most were the scary parts, were the intense parts. So I made that transition to horror. I'd always been a horror enthusiast. I read and watched mostly horror. Don't know why I wrote in sci-fi and all that, but I don't know. And then I turned 30 and I had this crisis because I always told myself, one day I'm going to write a book. One day I'm going to write a book. And then I turned 30 and I sat there and I said, what am I waiting for? Why am I waiting for one day? Why not just sit down and do it now? So that's what I did. I sat down. I started writing actually 2 other books that I wrote before that I'm still working on. What sparked this book actually was my oldest daughter. I have a 14-year-old, and she was having a lot of trouble at school with bullying, with issues. The administration didn't really help out very much. The sheriff's office didn't really help out very much, and it just turned into a whole big thing. And I took that idea and that anger of how you feel when you feel helpless that your kid is having all these issues, and I tried to blow that out to the most extreme. What would it look like in the most extreme situation? And that's kind of how this book came about.
Right. I think probably the poster child for kind of bullying in horror is probably Carrie.
Yep.
But I'm probably Stephen King in general. he loves his kids and his bullies.
Yeah.
So
really
yeah.
does.
So but this is obviously it's going to be like an older type of say cast, but characters. And so is there? Okay, I don't want to get into spoilers, but just like I'm just.
Yeah, no spoilers, please, because I did pre-order this book.
Is it like a one person's revenge, or is it more than one?
It's called Seven Rabbits, so I'm going to go on a limb and say it's not just one person.
No, I mean the person taking revenge. You could have said
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's called Seven Rabbits, so I don't think it's just one person.
So I'll say that Jim is correct. The rabbits is a reference to the people attacking them as well as the kids themselves. It's kind of an inside joke that I haven't told anybody about the rabbits.
Are we getting an exclusive?
Yeah, you guys are getting a little bit of an exclusive. This is the first time that I've talked about this part of it. So I went back and forth with the name for a while, and I had written originally Seven Rabbits down as more of a placeholder, and I was going to change the name later. And as I was explaining the story to my wife, she goes, "Man, they fuck like rabbits." And I said, I have to use that has to be the title of the book now. So yes, the people attacking them are in rabbit masks, Halloween, Easter masks, whatever you want to call it. But also the kids.
Well, I mean, that's
rabbits.
pretty typical for a slasher flick, right? I mean, we all.
Absolutely.
I personally love that it has that little tongue in cheek element.
I hope somebody cuts somebody's foot off and it's lucky.
Carried around on a keychain.
Dang it! I did not think of that. That would have been a great idea.
We can collaborate in the future. It's fun.
Wait.
Oh yeah, Mark, I'm gonna bring all my stories to you now, man. You just
when you
write
ideas. 8 Rabbits, the sequel, you have to use that.
I am actually planning out a sequel. That's something that's in the works.
Just blow the title for you.
No, definitely not. This is more of an abstract concept that I haven't even started really plotting out. So how do you
when you sit down to write, like what is your process? Do you come up with like the overall storyline? Do you have an ending and then just work towards that? How does that work for you?
It could be a little bit of anything. Wherever the inspiration comes from. I'm a light plotter, so I'll go through and outline each chapter, and I use that to keep myself focused, because if not, I go off on wild tangents, and next thing you know, I'm writing a completely different story than what I started with. So I'll come up with an idea, and I'll lightly plot out how I think that should go. And then I do this thing called zero drafting, where I just write. And if I make mistakes, if I make errors, if I change directions during the story, I don't go back and fix it. I just write the whole story from start to finish, even if I change directions, even if it creates plot holes, whatever. And then I set it down for a week or two, come back, read through it, decide what I do like and what I don't like, and where I think some things need to change. And then I go back and I rewrite it completely start to finish. And I use basically that first zero draft as a really detailed outline, and then rewrite the story from there.
So does that give you some ideas, Mark? I know you've always wanted to be a novelist.
I am so self-critical. I could write like a paragraph and then I'll sit and reread it 100 times and say, no, it's not worth it. But a question, I know you were saying that you're kind of referencing your daughter, etc. But are your characters based on anybody that you know?
No, there's one guy in there. His name's Mike Keese. I met him at work. Not Mike Keese. That's not the person's real name, but the guy who that's kind of based on. And it's really only one story. There's a chapter in there that focuses on Mike Keese's story. And, that story has elements of something that person I met at work told me once.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Jim?
Mark?
Okay, I always ask this, Timothy. So, okay, so this is your first novel, right? Gets picked up by the studios. Who do you have in your head as some of the actors and the director?
Ooh, man. So I'm not great with directors. I'll be honest with you there because I don't get into that deep into the movies. I'm
Right.
usually too busy writing. Let me think. Who would be a good one to direct it? If I could get somebody grungy, let me think.
Oh
Maybe
God.
Rob Zombie from when he did the. I think, but without his
Thank you,
wife, I can't have his
Jesus.
wife in it.
The wonderful Sherry Moon
Oh,
Zombie.
bite me, Mark. Ugh.
Yeah. So I like some of his earlier stuff. I haven't really liked anything that he's done lately. So maybe if I can get him to do something in the vein of like the Devil's
What
Rejects or
about
something like that, that'd be
how,
kind
how
of
do you
cool.
pronounce his name? Alvarez, the
Um,
guy who redid Evil Dead. I always fuck up.
Fred Alvarez. Is it Fred?
No, it's Fede. Fede.
Freddy. Okay.
I don't want to butcher the name, but I like
oh,
his cinematography and his style personally. I think that it would fit great.
what else? What else has he made? Because I know the new Evil Dead one, and
Well,
I
yeah.
liked the remake that he did. Rising didn't hold
Oh
up as
yeah,
well
no,
to the
not
first
at
one
all.
as I thought, but
He did the Evil Dead, and he's working on the new Alien movie, Romulus. So I'm excited about that.
ooh, I'm excited about that. I love
I do
Alien. I
too,
love
except
sci-fi
for
horror.
when we get into Prometheus and Covenant. Those movies suck.
Yeah, they went. I wanted so much more from them. I
So my
expected so
big thing
much
with
more from them.
Prometheus is it doesn't really follow the timeline or the storyline. It just sort of goes off on this weird tangent, and
Well,
then
Yeah,
Covenant makes the entire Alien franchise about an android with daddy issues, and I fucking hate
well,
it.
but to be honest with you, Prometheus was never supposed to really be an Alien prequel, right?
I know.
And then they had to start doing it because people were like, oh well, why don't you make it more like an Alien
Yeah.
prequel? And then they did Covenant and like, okay, we really have to go more Alien in this movie, but they still had all the baggage of Prometheus.
Right, but the problem with Covenant is they
yeah.
took the claustrophobia, the stuff which is the one element that made most of the Alien movies great, is that claustrophobic feeling with being trapped in one spot or in an area with this perfect predator, and they just unleashed it everywhere. There was no claustrophobia; it's just all these little fucking insects running everywhere.
I mean, really, what they should have done, and I don't know if like there's a series coming up and maybe more movies. Like they always tease like aliens getting back to Earth, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing. So
Yep.
I would like to see what you could do with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The series though is supposed to take actually Romulus is supposed to take place between Alien 1 and Alien 2. The series is supposed to take place after Resurrection, I believe.
After Resurrection,
So
Yes, where the aliens actually come to Earth because the ship crash lands on Earth at the end of Resurrection.
but there's no aliens, right? Weren't they all killed?
At the end of every movie, there's no quote unquote aliens, right?
No, I know. They're just, but like after Resurrection to me is just like
You had a
they,
giant queen on that fucking ship.
they,
How
they
could there
went
not
too
be?
they went too far forward. They went too comic booky crazy with that one.
But that's exactly what I loved about it.
Yeah, I don't
Tim,
know.
speaking of, I was say speaking of Alien, have either of you read
No.
Scourge Between the Stars?
No.
does
That's
it?
got some Alien vibes to it.
Have you ever
Yeah, it's a
have you ever
short
listened to
novella.
the audio? Because I know you do audiobooks sometimes, but have you ever listened to the audio novelizations of the Alien movies?
I have 3 of them downloaded on my
They are
Audible
freaking
and have not
fantastic
listened to
because
them
they
yet.
give you an insight into like the hive mind, which I think is fantastic. I wish they could somehow explore that in the Alien franchise. It would be amazing.
I'm gonna have to dive into that. I've got them all there. I
There's
just never
a
started them.
book about Alien or aliens, or I don't remember where I heard this from, but it's from the point of view of the alien.
I have not heard that one.
So
That
apparently,
sounds
it like
interesting.
flips everything on its head because the alien is just trying to survive, right?
Right, of course. It's a beast.
So the alien is the hero of that story.
I mean, every story's all about perspective, right?
Well, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I Am Legend. If you guys
I
remember
mean,
that
just
one.
look at history, Mark. You're a history buff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about who the victor is, and that's who tells you their point of view, and that's who the hero is.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go down the history road.
So, no, anyway. Let's not.
I was saying, you guys can get me talking about history all day. I'm
Mark,
a diehard
look,
history.
I'm uniting people. It's what I do. I unite people, Mark. This is what I do.
Well, it's like you read or you watch 300, right?
Yep.
All about the Spartans, and the Spartans are the heroes and everything else, right? And the Persians are coming in. The Persians are the weirdos trying to take over everything. And in a way, that's true. But the Persians were also very kind of like Romanesque, where they might take you over, but they'd let you keep your own religion and everything else as long as you pay them, right? So they weren't this like weirdo group, and the Spartans weren't exactly wonderful people either. So there's context for everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tim, also, but we've had some conversations before where we were talking about your voice and how you think it lacks quality today, but we absolutely think it's great. Tell us about your audiobook adventure.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. So I, out of the blues, all right, so this is kind of funny. Somebody told me that I had a sexy voice, and I was like, you know what? I bet you I could narrate stuff. Let me try that. So I bought a microphone, headphones, all the things I need, a little soundproof cage for my microphone and everything. And I made a TikTok video about it. And somebody that I knew from the writing side of things, she put me in touch with another author named L.M. Kaplan. He was the author of Mine, which is a psychological horror about
that's got the guy on the front with like a photo or whatever that's crossed out. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then the husband's face is scratched out of the picture. Yeah. So it's about a guy who is a recluse, and he takes care of his elderly his elderly mother, and he people watches out of his window all day, and he becomes obsessed with his neighbor's wife, and he takes that to an extreme and starts doing some really bad stuff.
Okay.
Due to that obsession. So, anyways, she said, hey, I think you'd be really good for this audiobook, and he is looking for someone to narrate a book. So she put us in touch, and that was my first audiobook narration. It was rough learning the first one. It took me about 2 months to narrate that book because I made so many mistakes. I had to go back and re-edit it so many times and re-record, and I worked on that thing tirelessly. Since then, I've narrated 4 more, but I can't talk about them because they're not officially out yet. But those ones all took me a week, 2 weeks to read and narrate. Those were easy. They were also a little bit shorter. They were all novellas, but so that's been pretty interesting. I narrate books under a different name, so I narrate under TC King. I'm also narrating my own book.
You're right.
Saves me some money, but so that's been it's been kind of a fun experience, and learning about it. It's difficult. I didn't give them enough credit. You know, you think, okay, you're just talking into a microphone, but voice acting, coming up with different voices for each character, plus all the editing if you don't have an editor, studio producer, something to do for yourself.
I know all about the editing problems. Don't I, Mark?
You probably heard our interview with Joe Hempel. And it's like...
I did.
With an audiobook, you have to be every actor in that book, right? So I think it's probably more difficult than most people even realize, because you have to either put on different accents or put on different affectations about how you speak, because this is this character and this is that character, and you have to really make them unique within it, which takes talent, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I suck at accents, so usually when I do different characters, I either fluctuate or drop my voice, and I'll change the pacing. Some people will have more of a clipped speak where it ends very quickly and abruptly. Some will have more of a longer drawl. So I try to change my voice, my pacing. I don't do accents because every time I try to do an accent, no matter what it is, it either comes off horrifically offensive or it sounds like a Jamaican man doing a impression. Those are my only two.
I feel like Mark's going to put you to the test right now
because
he's from Northern Ireland.
Oh, are you really? Yeah. I did know that. I heard that on one of the podcasts.
So can you do a Northern Irish accent?
I really can't, man. I really can't. I'm gonna blame it on my voice being, waking up sick and roughy. And
Here's a very
uh,
here's a very
fun fact.
sorry.
Go
Here's
ahead,
a very
Mike.
shorthand way of speaking Northern Irish, and my accent's actually gone because I've been in the U.S. for so long. But rather than saying Northern Ireland, you say Northern Ireland. I'm from Northern Ireland.
Nord Arn.
Yeah.
Nord Arn. Yeah, that's
but but
my great grandfather is actually from Ireland, or my great or great great grandfather. He came over in the early 1900s. So
All my family's from Scotland, so Mark hates me instantly anyway.
well, no, I mean Scotland and Northern Ireland are very closely linked. You wouldn't know that.
No, I wouldn't. I only know as much as I know about Ireland is I got from Mrs. Brown's Boys. So I'm sort of an expert, but not really.
Well, no, not really at all. As usual. But hey, with accents, like I said with Joe, Scott Brick, one of the best narrators ever, cannot do a Scottish accent. So it is what it is.
So, okay. So you guys already know Joe Hempel's one of my favorite audiobook narrators of all times. And I downloaded a book just because he was the narrator. And I didn't realize I'd already listened to it. And in this book, Joe Hempel does a Scottish accent. And it's not good. Oh my God, it's so terrible. I'm like, it's the Aegis
which
of
book was
Merlin.
that?
It's
Okay.
in the Audible, the library that Audible gives you for free every month, included in your membership or whatever. And the story's not bad, and he's fantastic as always with everything, except when he does this one character named Angus, and it's just so bad. But Joe, I still love everything you do. Please don't take that to heart. It's just awful.
Sometimes I will just buy a book on Audible
Yep.
because he was the narrator. I might not know anything about it. I'm like, hey, this is a horror book. Joe Hempel narrated it.
There's
I'm
only
gonna listen to
only
it.
one book of his that I stopped listening to, but I'm going to verify that before I say it.
Okay, well, it's not the Joe Hempel podcast.
It is not. You're right.
Timothy King podcast. So, Timothy, you said that you've just released the book, right? So, what's the process?
Yep. It's actually not released yet.
Yep.
It comes out on Easter.
So, what's the process with that? Is that self-publishing through like Amazon, or do you go through a publisher and have like paper copies, or how?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. I decided to go the self-publishing route. I did not query to any sort of traditional publishers. So the normal process, if you go through one of the big five, one of the traditional publishing companies, like
Right.
Stephen King kind of thing, you send letters with copies of your manuscripts to agents. If they like it, they pick it up, and then they represent you and they pitch you to publishing companies. I skipped all that. I went the self-publishing route. For me, it was a couple of different things. One, I wanted to maintain total control over my story. I wanted to control the cover, narrations, everything about it. I wanted to have complete rights to it. And then also the speed of it. Typically, if you go the traditional publishing route, and let's say a traditional publisher picked me up today, they may not publish my story for another 3 years. And by that time, I could have done a lot in that time. So I decided to go the self-publishing route. I published it through KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, which is Amazon's gimmick, and then also through Ingram Spark, which is it's a print-on-demand company, but they do most of your printing for bookstores. So Barnes & Nobles gets all their books from Ingram. Books A Million gets all their books from Ingram. And the main difference between the two is when you go with Amazon, Amazon doesn't let you do pre-orders of paperback. They only let you do ebook pre-orders. They're trying to corner that ebook market. Whereas Ingram lets you do pre-orders and paperback. You can do both as long as you buy your own ISBN numbers, which is incredibly expensive, but it's worth it. If you do both, they will actually link up. And now if you go on my Amazon page, you can pre-order my book. Amazon's not filling that order.
I was so excited when I saw that go live. You have no idea.
So it's going to be. I was too. I was fought with them for. So, man, hope nobody from Ingram Spark is listening, but their customer service is atrocious.
Well, maybe they should be listening.
Right.
They know and they don't care. They don't even have a phone number
Jesus.
on their website to call them. You cannot call them. Yeah. You have to send them an email. You get an automatic reply that just says, we'll respond to you in 3 to 5 days. And usually, from my experience so far, their email back is just, it's not helpful. And then you have to start the whole process over.
That sounds worse than my healthcare provider.
So I fought with them for like 3 weeks. Yeah. I fought with them for about 3 weeks to get the paperbacks live.
Well, I'm glad you did, because that made me able to pre-order it.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I was supposed to get 30 copies of it today. And UPS postponed the order till tomorrow, so I'm going to get the first 30 copies.
Are those the ones that you're going to do?
Will that be, though? Hang on. I'm saying, how amazing will that be? Whenever you get that book in your hand.
Oh, it's incredible. I got the first proof copy from Amazon already. So I have one copy of it, but it has a line across the front that says not for retail sell. So I've got that. I've got my physical hands on that. That's pretty cool. I'm working on getting a shadow box made so I can put it into a shadow box and put it on my wall, which kind of vain, but I was really excited about it.
It's like getting your first check.
Yeah,
right?
That's not vain at all. That's not vain at all. That's a huge accomplishment. I would do the same damn thing.
Yeah. My funny thing is my wife, she does not read ebooks, Kindle, any of that stuff. So she has not read the book yet. Now that I got the first copy, she's been reading it, but she's trying very, very hard not to crack the spine or anything. So she's being super gentle with it. I think she's like 5 or 6 chapters in now. So she's getting there. She's not really a horror reader. She's not really in the horror genre at all. She'll usually read romances or thrillers. So this is definitely outside of her normal wheelhouse. So I'm waiting to see how she actually feels about it.
We've had a couple conversations, obviously not on the podcast, about different genres of horror, right? Subgenres. So what is your go-to subgenre of horror? Like, I've met some people like extreme fans, which I am not. But then you have your splatterpunk and all that kind of stuff. What is your genre? What do you enjoy reading?
So for reading, the one thing that I'll start with what I don't enjoy because it's a shorter list. I'm not really big on haunted houses and ghosts. Pretty much everything outside of that, I'm in. I like monsters. I like splatterpunk. I like slashers, psychological thrillers. I love cults and religion. It scares that's the one thing for whatever reason that scares the ever living hell out of me.
Right?
You give me a good, yeah, exactly. You give me a good religious horror, and I can feel that in my bones, and it scares the mess out of me. I would say I do dabble in the extreme and splatterpunk side of things too when it comes to reading. Not so much watching, just because I don't know. There's a disconnect for me there where it's not as enjoyable for me to watch it. But for reading it, I will dabble in the splatter and the extreme side of horror. In fact, my book, I've been told, kind of toes that line a little bit. I don't feel like it crosses into extreme. I'm not marketing it or classifying as extreme, but it does dabble in that a little bit and toes that line real close. I will read. I'm a big Ronald Malfi fan. So yeah, whatever Ronald Malfi puts out, I will read it. I think I have 3 books left of his back catalog that I am still working on. I've got 2 of them on my shelf that I just haven't started yet. I've been too busy.
Mark?
Jim?
You have questions?
Timothy, I know you brought up like religious horror, so I think we're probably going to talk about that for a little bit. But do you want to talk about anything else in regards to how people can pick up your work and any sort of self-advertising that you want to do?
This is one of my least favorite things is the self-promo side of being self-publishing. I actually I was just talking to somebody about this the other day about how it feels so salesman-like. I'm going door to door basically knocking.
Do you want me to do it for you? Because I know most of your links. I mean, if it makes you feel that dirty.
Nah, it's okay. It's all right. At the end of the day, I've got to do it. But it's 7 Rabbits on Amazon. So if you go on there, it's up for pre-order right now. You can pick it up on ebook or on paperback, and it will be on Kindle Unlimited on Easter Day. So if anybody's got Kindle Unlimited, that's a good way to read it. I don't know how that whole Kindle Unlimited thing really works. This is my first time with it, so I'm going to experiment with it. You have to commit to them for 90 days. So I went ahead and did that just to see how it shakes out. If you want to follow me, interact with me, anything like that, I'm on Facebook as Timothy King Author. I am on TikTok as Timothy King Author, and I am on Instagram as Timothy King Author. Those are the only 3 that I'm really active on. I got advice from somebody a while back, another author, who said you don't need to be on all the platforms all the time. Pick a couple that you're comfortable with and that you're good with.
And I will say, Mark, his content on Instagram is not just about his book. He does do book reviews, and he talks about other content creators, and he really does have a wide variety. So I enjoy watching his content because it's not all just shameless self-promotion.
Jim, I know you're the workhorse of this podcast. Mm-hmm. And we're on YouTube and stuff. Can you add his links to underneath our podcast?
I mean, I could try. I don't know how that works, but I'll try. Yeah. But it'll definitely be. I'll definitely put it under the TikTok videos and the YouTube stuff for sure.
YouTube.
Yep, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, our 12 subscribers on YouTube will definitely appreciate that. I'm sure.
Hey, every little bit counts. Right? I'm one of those 12.
YouTube's brand new for us. I mean, I think with Joe Hempel is when I finally got it up and going, and for some reason it won't publish his episode. So,
Yeah. Oh, look at that. I actually used to I had a YouTube podcast, or a podcast that I posted on YouTube years ago about high school and college football, because I'm a big football fan as well. And I had one video on there go viral. It got like 180,000 views. And then we killed it shortly after COVID and everything. Right. Just, it was too much.
So, Timothy, before we move on, so we're all in Florida, right? So me and Jim go to like horror conventions. Do you ever go to those, or would you ever want to go as an author? You know, sometimes I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I would love to. Usually it's you buy a vendor table, you have to pay a fee, and then you get a table set up. I am currently looking at going to Scares That Care in St. Louis. That is in the middle of October, I believe. So I'm trying to work that out right now. There's not, from what I've seen so far, if you guys know of any, let me know. I haven't seen as many in Florida.
We have two. We have two, for sure.
Right. So the big one, that's where I met Jim, is Spooky Empire. They make one in May and October in Orlando usually.
Do they usually have authors there? Because I don't know anything about it.
In their vendor room, they usually have it.
And they have author panels and everything else. Yep. So.
All right, I'm gonna have to look into that, because I was definitely looking at that, and I just didn't know enough about it. I can hook you up
with some names for that one if you want.
I would.
And then we can all hang out.
Yeah, that would be great. Because I
mean, I only live an hour away from Mark. Whatever. I mean,
and Marcus.
I told Jim I was going to record the intro for y'all's podcast at some point, and but I forgot to tell him my contingency on that. My contingency, the only way I'm going to do that is if you take me out on your yacht.
Yeah. But I was
he sold it to finance his new roof.
Basically,
yeah.
So the other one, which is normally in Ocala, but it's coming to Tampa in March, is Spookala.
I saw that one as well.
Tampa Convention Fairgrounds or something.
I'll be perfectly honest.
I'm gonna have to look at.
I bought tickets to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look and see if I can.
I bought tickets to that last year. I never went. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't make it the weekend it was going on.
Well, no,
it was going on up here in up in Ocala, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm over in Tampa every July anyway for SharkCon, so I take my niece like every year for the last 7 years. I've taken her and her son. Yeah.
Yep. So if you're ever going to any of them, just let me know, and I'll let Jim know if it's one he's going to too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to start going
You
to
should.
more
I
of
mean,
them.
even if you
So
want to just hang out, like Mark and I. Mark is so proud of me because I actually booked a room for May. Like he's so excited. You have no idea.
Jim usually goes for a couple hours, whereas I stay there overnight.
Yep.
And like in May for Spooky Empire, they have like a pool party and bands and everything else, and it's like,
This will
oh
be the
wow,
first time I get to experience that.
that's the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's great. Plus, it's great people watching, and people are really nice there.
Right.
And
Because they
you
did
know,
Jaws on the water there one year, right? In the pool.
yep,
Yep.
hmm
Which that could be a lot of fun.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm definitely
absolutely.
gonna check it out now.
yeah.
So, Mark, are you ready to talk about religious horror?
Yeah, so Timothy, you wanted to bring up religious horror. You just mentioned that it's something that affects you. Are you religious, or
Oh yeah,
is it?
I no, I am not. I'm an atheist. That's my official stance. But I obviously being in the South. I was born in North Carolina originally. Have a lot of family in the Bible Belt. And it's something that's around us all the time. And it's something that if you study it from a historical side of it, that there's been a lot of atrocities and things that have happened in the name of different religions, and it scares the hell out of me. Um, I also really interested in things like the witch trials, the persecutions in Spain with all that stuff. That kind of stuff all really got to me, and I also went to a Catholic college, so I got to really study the history of everything, and ever since then, it's really something that just scares the mess
I
out of
think
me.
it's certainly something which is like I'm an atheist. I'm an agnostic atheist, and I think it's even if you don't believe in something, if you're brought up in that culture, there's a certain creepiness
Yep,
around it, right? Like especially that they can tap
exactly.
into in horror. Even when people are making horror movies and they're religious, like William Peter Blatty, right? Exorcist, Exorcist 3. Um, Even though he's religious, and I totally don't agree with his religious beliefs at all, there's still something there. There's still something there from like you're a kid, and I always think about that part in Exorcist 3 at the very start, right, where the Jesus statue opens his eyes, and that's super
Yep.
creepy. Like if it was a regular statue, yeah, it might be a little creepy, but because it's a Jesus statue, even though I don't believe in that shit, there is something there, like just culturally.
Absolutely. I got chills just thinking of that scene. So yeah, it hits different. The religious side of it, it's just scary. And the things that people are willing to do when they believe that they're on the right side of
Well,
it.
it's well, we could probably get into a long discussion about religion,
We could.
but
No, yeah, not to get into a religious discussion to me. I'm just thinking from the
oh
historical
no, yeah.
movie book side of it. I'm talking about.
So I was sitting there thinking about it earlier on for like 2 seconds. So I wrote a few things down, and whenever you're looking at certainly religious horror movies, right? You can go back to the 1920s, right? Haxan,
Mhm.
all about religious horror back then, and I'm sure that was like terrifying for a lot of people back then.
That
But
movie has some extremely disturbing imagery. Like
yeah, and
they
I
did a fantastic job. Even to this day, it still holds up.
and I think some of that imagery is more haunting because it's from the 1920s.
Yep.
Like you can't replicate that, right?
No.
It's just something of that time, which it's like if you ever see like kids from the 1950s in their Halloween outfits,
Yep.
they're super scary, right? But they made them themselves, and it's like really creepy.
Yep.
But I was thinking that there's certain aspects of religious horror that are kind of, I think, almost like little subgenres within religious horror. Um, so the first one and the most obvious one is possession, right? So The Exorcist, Exorcist 3, and then the bazillion other possession movies that are based on Christianity.
Right.
Yeah,
So, are you
absolutely.
discounting the Jewish possession movies like Dybbuk?
No, I'm saying that. So I have another category of non-Christian
Oh, okay. Okay.
religious horror.
I just wanted to make sure we were giving equal time. That's all.
Although, I mean, you say, well, Jewish and Christianity, it's the same God, whatever. But I think there's very much like the possession ones where it's very specifically tied to The Exorcist, right? The Exorcist was a template for so many movies since it was made, right? And you've got a billion movies. Some of them are great, most of them are crap, and they're the same type of thing. We won't talk about The Exorcist Believer again because...
Oh, do we have to?
You want to talk about that? Have you seen The Exorcist Believer?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new one that just came out, I was not a fan.
And that's the general consensus from everybody we've ever had on this podcast. It was a giant letdown, and we all hate it. It's garbage. Let's move on. I was
so excited too. I really was. Me and my wife made a whole thing out of it when it first went on to Amazon Prime. We got popcorn and ice cream and rented the movie. You had the kids out of the house, lights off, and halfway through it, I'm like, we should just go to bed at this point.
Were you excited about the Exorcist thing, or because it was like David Gordon Green, you like the Halloween one?
Who is no, wait, hang on, before you answer that. Who is ever excited about David Gordon Green after what he did to Halloween?
Some people.
I want to meet that person.
Well, that's my question, Jim. Shut
up. I think I was more excited about the Exorcist part. The fact that it was tied into the, related to the original Exorcist. I think that's what had me really excited about it. And it just, it did not.
Did you watch Did you watch those Halloween movies they made recently?
I did.
Yeah.
So wait, hang on, Mark, do not bias this gentleman. Timothy, what did you think of the 3 movies?
Okay. Of the new Halloween movies. Man. I didn't hate the first one. Did not like the third one.
Evil Dies Tonight.
Evil Dies Tonight.
It's garbage too. I'll save you the headache. It's garbage too.
Okay. Yeah, the third, that must be why I can't remember it. I remember the first one. I was like, okay, this wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
It was tolerable for me. But the third one, I remember specifically sticks in my head. I'm like, I just did not enjoy that at all. So
there's just something about a 30-year-old man being bullied by some band geeks that just didn't sit well. Yeah.
Right.
But why bring it up? Obviously, because it's the same director, but they obviously brought in like the same sort of themes about, hey, it takes a community to try and beat evil and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, the first one is very specifically, right? It's a very Christian Catholic exorcism. I don't buy your shit. I understand what you're trying to do, and I think it's like the idea is fine, but the execution is not good because, like, you bring in witch doctors and this and that, and then it's just like it just dilutes everything.
It's a free for all.
It got
convoluted, and everybody's just screaming whatever they want to scream. Like, there's no plan of attack.
Yeah. They definitely did not have any sort of plan of attack. It's like, all right, we're just going to tie them up in chairs and we're all just going to scream different
until somebody
dies.
That's what we're doing.
But plus, the demon wins, right?
Yep.
They just dictate what's going to happen, and then they just do it. So what's the point in everyone else? They may as well just fuck off.
No, let's be honest, right? Let's be honest about that movie, right? Everybody, anybody with a little bit of forethought, as soon as the demon, poses the ultimatum, everybody knows what's going to happen. The ending is completely spoiled.
Right.
You know exactly who's going to break,
100%.
exactly who's going to choose, and exactly who's going to die.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was no surprise. There was no twist.
But possession, right? You could look at things like the taking of Deborah Logan.
Fantastic.
Evil Dead.
Yep.
You can take these other, different religions that they made up and still have a good possession movie.
You can.
Yeah, you could go a million different directions with exorcism and possession type stuff. Like you said, the Evil Dead. I mean, that's a whole different, circumstance and beast than The Exorcist, but they're both possession movies.
I'll be perfectly honest. I've never once thought of The Evil Dead as a possession movie, and I don't know why. Because at its heart, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
because you don't know anything about horror, Jim.
That's true. That's true.
That is true.
Yep.
So like another category for me is kind of just like witchcraft, and I know it's kind of a strange thing, but if you look at like the Witchfinder General, or kind of if you're going back to Black Sabbath, the Mario Baba, and you have that kind of witch thing, and again, that's kind of Christianity, right? But it's definitely separate from possession, right? But it's still within that sort of Spanish Inquisition. Witches are real, but what turns it on its head normally, or a lot of times, is that the religious people are the ones that are evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Basically anything set in that Puritan time frame always gets me when it comes to witches. The Witch, what was that, 20?
Yeah,
I don't remember when that one came out, but yeah,
Did
that
it
one
really?
got me good. It did actually. It was the vibe of it, the atmosphere of it really messed me up. I don't know. Like I said, religious horror messes me up.
Have you seen Black Death?
Yeah, I saw that one recently. That's where the knights go to the village because the one village doesn't have any Black Death, right?
And that was a good one. I like that one. I did, however, not like The Witch. I thought it was boring.
The Witch is less horror for me, and it's more drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that the atmosphere of the Puritan society really freaks me out.
And I mean, for a lot of movies, especially with a possession type movie, it has to be all about the atmosphere, right? And certain things are going to hit for certain people, which is why it's great that there's so many of them, because somebody's going to find something they like.
Yeah, absolutely.
The funny thing about The Witch, right, is that family was exiled from the community because they were too religious.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the father was just like too extreme for them, and they're like, "Get the fuck out! You're too crazy for us."
Right. Which is already they're already the extreme group of that religious sect, and then on top of that, you're too extreme for the extreme group. Get out of here!
You know you're probably pretty bad if you're getting kicked out of an extreme group.
Right.
I'm going to go to the bathroom, Jim.
Okay, so Tim, I want to talk about one of my favorite religious horror movies. While Mark's gone,
okay.
One of my favorites is from the late '90s, early 2000s. Is Stigmata with Patricia Arquette.
Yes, I saw that. Man, I saw that so long ago.
You're a bit younger than I am, so I'm curious if it hits as hard as it hit when I saw it for the first time.
I remember being freaked out. I think I want to say I saw it in like 2006 or 7, maybe. It was right around the time I was a freshman in high school.
Thank you for making me feel old. But anyway, continue. It's okay.
Sorry. And I don't remember the details of the film that much, but I remember being freaked out by it, and feeling that fear. So it must have hit for me, because I do.
So essentially, the movie's about a non-believer, right? Somebody who is not a Christian getting the stigmata, which are the marks of Christ, which generally are reserved for the most devout Christians. And the Catholic Church is trying to cover it up because they can't have a non-believer receiving these marks and these things that are only supposed to be for the ultra religious. So my big thing was not so much the horror. Like, it's a beautiful film, the way it's shot, the bright colors and the giant juxtaposition between the brightness of outside and when she's in the church, and how it's just so rich. Like, the cinematography is beautiful, but the fact that it was so critical of the Catholic Church for me was like, holy shit. It was, especially back in the late 90s. Like, nobody had done that before. It was fantastic. And Patricia Arquette, we don't care. Patricia Arquette, one of my favorite actresses. Like, she can do hard hitting and she can do A Nightmare on Elm Street. It doesn't matter. She's still great.
Yeah. I remember there was a scene in there, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be mixing movies up, where she's like elevated and there's like the light coming in behind her and she's got her arms outstretched like she's on. I remember that scene vividly.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. I do remember that scene vividly.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy. And that held up pretty well, at least from when I was, when I was a little bit younger and I
Mar-
saw it. So I do
so,
remember
Mark, by
that
the
scene
time
though.
to fill time while you were busy, we're talking about Stigmata.
Yes, no, I heard before I went.
Yeah.
Yes, I dig Stigmata. I haven't seen it in a long, long time. But the basis of that is that Christianity is all real, right? So it's saying that it's just being warped by people,
Right.
which, whatever.
And
Yeah, people have a habit
and
of
at its
warping
base,
things, so.
it really was very critical of the Catholic Church, which hadn't been done at that time.
Well,
At least that I
it's,
seen.
it's all about cherry picking, right? Which is
Yeah.
everyone, like, that's common.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? One of the probably the gnarliest religious horror film is. It's not even
What's that?
Passion of the Christ.
It is. That is a gnarly film. It is.
Oh, you
I've
should
never
watch
watched
it.
it.
It's like
You really should. It's graphic.
like extreme horror.
Yeah. It
It's
could
great.
be.
Oh yeah,
Really?
Mel
Absolutely.
Gibson, like he's a weirdo, but he makes great
Well,
movies
Jim-
and he makes some extreme movies. Apocalypse is another really good one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
But Passion of the Christ, you should watch it. Just like I don't believe any of it again,
Yeah.
but it's like I don't like this term, but it's like torture porn.
It really is. It really is. And Jim
Yeah.
Caviezel, like, regardless of what you think of him personally, because he is a little bit nutty, is a fantastic actor, and he carries that role so well. Even though none of it's in English, it's all in Aramaic. It's fantastic.
And
Oh, I might have to break down and do it then because I never watched it.
yeah,
Never bothered me.
it's just brutal. It's absolutely brutal. I'm not
Just like Halloween, right, Mark?
And fun fact, Jim Caviezel got hit by lightning during the filming of it.
I felt so bad during the whipping scene in that movie. Oh my god, that was awful. That was
I would have never thought of that as a horror, but I
Yeah,
could see the horror in it.
It's graphic in probably it's one of the more extreme movies you'll ever watch. That's why it's so niche, I think.
Oh, it's not niche, and Jim. I mean,
Well, no, because I mean,
huge hit, and loads of Christians love it because it's like, look at how Christ suffered, and blah 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 blah. Okay, but you realize you're watching like a torture porn movie.
yeah, exactly. And Mark, and I will say this for Mark to use that term, Timothy, is
I don't like it.
it's got to be primo because he hates that term.
I don't like it.
Okay. All right. That you guys just sold me
Yeah,
on it. I know what I have to do this coming up week.
I hope you enjoy subtitles because it's all subtitles.
I'll get a thing of popcorn.
Yeah.
I'll get a Snuggie.
Right.
Get
There you
weird.
go.
Throw it on.
And it's beautifully acted and
It is.
directed and
It
shot,
really is.
everything else. But you would not expect a major movie like that to be so brutal.
Right.
It is. It is. It's great.
Yeah.
So my next kind of topic was okay. So we've done like possession, like Christian
Oh,
possession.
hang on, Mark. I need him to talk about one of the movies he brought up.
Oh,
So, Tim, we talked about a movie, and I told you that there was going to be some definite opinions. Do you remember what that was?
ooh.
Oh man, I don't.
Mark,
What movie
he
was
enjoyed Midsummer.
that? Oh. I did. I like Midsummer.
So
You hear him stuttering? I told you this was going to get him.
but here's the thing, right? I can see things about Midsummer that I really like. It's beautifully shot. It's well acted. But at the end of the day, it's just a very bad Wicker Man clone.
Wait,
If you've seen
is there a good Wicker Man clone?
I could see that.
Is there a good Wicker Man clone?
Oh, the one with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, no. Oh. No.
I think it burned.
I think-
it burned.
Mark, I think that was a direct response to a video I posted earlier this week.
It was.
So here's the thing, like Ari Aster, I think Hereditary is a modern day classic.
Yep.
I
Love
think
Hereditary.
Midsummer is a boring mess where you don't like. I don't like any of the characters in it.
That's fair. I mean, none of them are really redeemable. They're all kind of crappy, but I also love cults. I love all cult things, so that had a thing for me there. And I think too, there was like a brutality level to it that I really liked, where it was kind of like a ruthlessness. Especially there at the end. I don't want to spoil it in
we could
case
spoil
anyone
it.
hasn't
I
seen
have
it.
not seen it, but feel free to spoil it.
Okay. I mean, at the end, one of the girls in there, she basically gets the decision as to whether or not she wants to stay in the cult or not, and whether or not she's going to sacrifice her friends. And I can appreciate that, like how her character developed through that film, and went from being this traumatized person who just lost her family to then making decisions, and whether or not they were the right decisions, that's a whole different conversation. But she went from this traumatized person to actually developing his character, and it was a negative character arc. She became a worse person, in my opinion, at the end of it, but it was a really good.
So I think she was manipulated into that.
So
She was absolutely the 100%. And that's the whole thing about a cult, right? Is that they manipulate you. They play your feelings. They learn how to draw you in. That scene where they're all crying with her, and she's hyperventilating, and they're matching her crying. It just shows this. I feel like the representation there of it bringing her into their community. We're all one. We all feel the pain with you, and it is 100% manipulative. But that's what good cult leaders
and it's the isolation too, right?
So
Yeah,
full spoilers.
absolutely.
She sacrifices her friends to stay in this cult, right?
Well, she sacrifices her boyfriend.
Boyfriend, yeah. The other friends, I don't think any of them else
they
make
get
it to
their
the
own
end.
fate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Plus, we get an awesome Norse Blood Eagle scene.
Oh,
in it, which is
fantastic!
pretty cool.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to check it out.
Apparently, the Blood Eagle never
You
actually happened, and it's maybe being made
Yeah,
up.
it's more of like a Norse saga thing, but it's still pretty cool.
It is,
like the idea of it.
So we could probably just talk about cults right now. So I watched a YouTube video by Papa Meat, and it was titled "The Scariest City in the U.S."
Was it Orlando?
Nope. Can you get?
Scariest city in the U.S. So is it one of the is it a more mainstream religion that they're calling?
I'll give you a hint. It's in Florida.
Oh,
in Florida, that's a curveball. I was thinking of
because I clicked on it. I'm like, Oh, then I'm like, okay, I see why you're saying that.
Is it that group of sexual offenders down in the Keys? There's like a city there. No,
think about more famous cults. What's the most famous cult?
Oh, Clearwater. It's Scientology.
Where I live.
Welcome to Mark's neighborhood. Who, by the way, I will say, during his quote unquote invasion last weekend, he tried to convert me.
Here's the thing, Timothy. So I live in Clearwater, and the person that we bought this house from was a Scientologist, and we continue to get Scientology like mail here. I like magazines and whatever. So Jim came around, and I'm like, Jim, why don't you read this? And he started looking at it, and he's like looking at me and like,
I had like 3 minutes of doubt with Mark. I'm not gonna lie.
If Tom Cruise or the Scientologists are listening to this, I don't hate you guys. Don't come after me. Come after Mark and Jim.
It's okay. Come after me. I don't mind. It'll give me something to do.
So cults is another, religious horror. I think about things like The Sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen that, Timothy, which is really like Jim Jones, right?
Right.
I don't remember that one.
It's a director I don't like at all, Ty West. But it's a found footage thing, basically Jim Jones, but done found footage way. Okay. So I think that's pretty effective.
I thought that was really that was a really good one, because you really get the nitty gritty feel, and you see the how he devolved until the absolute massacre at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're saying it's Jim Jones, but it's obviously Jim Jones.
Right. What was the name of that one?
Called The Sacrament.
Sacrament. Okay. Write that down.
But cults, you've got everything from like The Lottery.
Is The
To
Lottery really a cult movie, or is that just mass hysteria?
no, The Lottery is a cult.
You think?
What's that one with the guy from The Guest that I really liked?
Oh yeah,
Dan Stevens was in what movie? Cultish. Dan Stevens.
Well, while you're looking for that one, one cult movie that I watched recently that I enjoyed, and I don't really think it was super horror side of it, but it was really interesting, was Apostle on Netflix. What do you guys think of that
that's the one that I was talking about.
That's what he's trying to figure out.
That's the one you're looking for.
Exactly the one with
Okay.
Dan Stevens in it.
Yep, I have not seen it.
So that's what I was thinking of, and I was like, okay,
We
there
have
it is.
like The Ritual. If you've seen The Ritual, that's a really good cult.
I've watched and
that
read
is a
The Ritual,
fantastic movie. That is one of my favorite movies.
Jim, have you
I have not
read
yet,
that
no.
book? It
Is it really?
completely different
Is it?
from the movie.
In a good way or a
Yeah.
bad way though?
It is.
Right.
They're both amazing. The ending and the cult in it are very different, completely different. The last quarter of that could be a
I
completely
am going
different
to add
story.
it to my Audible TBR right now.
So
The cult in the book is more of like a death metal band, which is
black
an
metal.
interesting twist on it.
I assume it's more black metal if it's.
Yeah, black metal. Yeah. Black. It's like Norwegian black metal.
Oh, that's awesome. I made Jim listen to some black metal whenever he came over here.
You did not. You made me listen to baby metal, and it's
No, you listened to Dimmu Borgir.
Oh right, yes, we did, but that doesn't bother me. I'm fine with that.
No, I know, but that's still black metal.
Yep. Okay, so I have the audiobook on my list now, so we're good.
There you go. It's good. It's fantastic. I was listening to it because I would take my dog on walks every night, and we'd go for these 3-mile walks or whatever. And I was listening to it throughout each night on that, and it got kind of creepy out there in the middle of nowhere, walking by myself in the dark, listening to this story. So it was good. Adam Neville's a fantastic writer.
I'm looking forward to it. So I told you, Mark, this is totally unrelated, but I got, when we went to that readout and we came over and visited you, we met a horror author that I was not familiar with. Hold on a minute. I just downloaded her book. Jennifer McMahon. Apparently she's
I don't think I've read any
she's
of her
a big
work
deal.
yet.
She's had like 11 New York Times bestsellers. What a nice lady. I just downloaded the first book, the Winter People. I've not read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Is it anything to do with cults, Jim?
I don't know yet.
So why'd you bring it up?
Because we were talking about audiobooks.
Oh, for fuck's sake! But obviously we have like The Wicker Man, right? Which is the
of course, the classic. You don't like The Wicker
Well,
Man, Jim?
I don't like the remake, but the original I've not seen. I know I need to, and I love Donald Sutherland, but I have not seen it yet.
Donald Sutherland's not in it, Jim.
Wait, who's in the original Wicker Man then? If you tell me George C. Scott, we're gonna have problems.
Woodward is in it.
Edward Woodward, that's right. We've had
Christopher
that conversation.
Lee's in it.
Yep.
Not Donald Sutherland.
That's right, because I'm thinking of what is that movie where he
Don't
points
Look
at
Now.
Yeah, that one. That's the one I'm thinking of. You're right.
So then you can flip from cults to which the Wicker Man also covers like folk or pagan religious horror, which again The Ritual kind of does too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
Jim, what's your favorite folk horror?
I would have to go with The Ritual. That's my favorite so far.
Name another folk horror apart from
that stupid movie you and Lucy made me watch. What was that one where they went into the fog and they were looking at that statue? What the hell was that movie? That was so bad. I hated every minute of it, and you and Lucy loved it.
Yep.
I can't remember.
It's great. Oh, what the fuck?
Because we talked about that and The Ritual in the same episode.
Yes, because they both fit together perfectly.
Yeah, and that was such a bad movie. I hated every minute of it.
What the fuck is it called? Oh my god, I can't remember.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was terrible. Every part of it was just awful.
Timothy, do you want to bring up any folk or pagan horror you like, or?
Trying to think of a good one that I really like that you guys haven't mentioned yet, because you guys have kind of hit all the big ones. I think of any. The Ritual is probably one of my all time favorites. I love that. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in some of the other ones that we've talked about, like with the cults and stuff, like the Witchfinder General. That's, I would call that one a folk horror. That one's really good. There's a lot of overlap there, which with the cults especially. So I think we've pretty much hit.
Mark, that one was called The Shrine.
The Shrine, yes. Have you seen The Shrine, Timothy?
I have not seen The
Shrine. List too. That is.
It was garbage. I hated it.
I heard one recently that I want to watch that I believe is folk horror. Chuck recommended it from TikTok, Jim. Hagazusa.
I haven't seen that one.
It's 2017. I don't know a whole lot about it, but he said it was creepy as hell. And it follows like a person in the Alps, isolated in the Alps, I guess. So I'm interested in that one. He said that was a real.
You know what? I gotta look up this name. You guys continue to talk. There's one movie. There's this movie I want to recommend to you, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. So you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, so another kind of category, and I know it's kind of mostly like Christian or basically Christian, but I think it's kind of separate enough, and that's kind of the Antichrist, end times, rapture type movies, where it's like the Omen or End of Days or anything like. Where we're talking about, the devil's coming down, he's going to kill everybody, and blah, 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 blah. And then you get a lot of the Christian like movies, like Left Behind and stuff, that like kind of like jump on that too. So
post-apocalyptic, almost between that post-apocalyptic area of like what leads to that. I get that. I think one that I watched this a little while ago, but I really enjoyed it, was Eli.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that one?
It sounds familiar.
It follows a mother and father who are trying to get treatment for their son.
Yes.
He's basically allergic to the outside.
Yes.
Okay. And they take him to like a church thing, and they're doing all these experiments and stuff on him. That one I really enjoyed, and that was definitely bringing the devil back, reincarnating him kind of thing. So I like that a lot.
Have you seen VHS 2?
I saw VHS 1. I did not
watch
see
VHS 2. I think it's way better than the first one. It's like a standout in that series. Like, and it's actually one of my favorite anthology movies. But there is a story within there that kind of contains that same sort of thing. I don't want to give it away. But VHS 2 is absolutely fantastic. So, definitely check it out.
I wouldn't trust him, Tim, because he tried to get me to watch VHS in 1985, and it was garbage.
No, it was fine. But it's no VHS 2. VHS 2 is head and shoulders above the rest of that series. Every single episode in that is great.
Would you put Rosemary's Baby in that category?
Mm-hmm.
Rosemary's Baby is a terrible movie.
Yeah. The 1968 one?
Has there been another one? They may have, but that movie was so boring. I hate it.
The book's really good. You should check out the book. You might like the book.
I might try that, but I just really hate the movie.
So I think Rosemary's Baby, you just have to know what you're getting into, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not a typical horror. It's really a movie about gaslighting.
yes, it really is. I agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Repulsion and some of these other kind of like late 60s movies, and it's more about psychological torment, right? Rather than out-and-out horror.
You know what's really funny about that is I just pulled up, because I've got Google up here in front of me, and I typed in Rosemary's Baby, and one of the first thing that pops up is an article where it says, the devil isn't the scariest part of Rosemary's Baby. While Rosemary's Baby features terrifying cults and Satan, it's the gaslighting and abuse she's subjected to by the humans that makes it so terrifying.
That's 100% true, because humans do worse things to each other than any demon or entity could ever do.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
pretty
Oh
cool to
yeah,
each other.
I mean, real life is way worse than any sort of fantasy.
The fiction. Yeah.
I won't go into what I've been watching recently. So the last kind of category is something which I think isn't as effective, probably for most of us, depending on what country you're in, and it's like religions from around the world, right? So you can look at something that is. I watched my first Indian movie recently, Tumbat, and it's because it's so different, because it's a different religion, it's a different everything else. It doesn't have that same like it's not a Jesus statue with its eyes opening because it's so foreign. So I don't, but probably the people that know that religion are probably super scared about it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, and you can look at that even like kind of mythology or like foreign, like you look at Ju-on or Japanese horror mythology, for example. It's very specific, but that also has some overlap because Ringo was such a big hit, and they start coming over here, and now it's like, oh, creepy little Asian girl with long hair and stuff like that. That's creepy. But you have to think it's way more effective within that country if you've been growing up with those sort of tales or stories.
Yeah, I'll admit, I am terrible about reading and watching horror from outside of my community. That's probably something I need to
Mhm.
work on. Um, it's just something I've never gotten into. I think like for foreign films, I think as far as horror goes, I mean, outside of like Norse mythology kind of thing, that stuff I watched some of that like with Ritual. Um, and it's foreign, but it's not really a different religion. It would be like Martyrs.
Which is my
Which
favorite
uh,
horror movie.
It really is.
really
Yes, he made me
Really.
watch it.
is it real? Okay,
He did,
he made
and
you
I'm
watch
glad
it.
he did. That's one of the few things we agree on. That was a fantastic film. Yeah.
It really was. And I wasn't gonna go that route with it because it doesn't really answer your question. It's still more on the Christian and
Mhm.
Catholicism side of it. But I was just thinking foreign films, and that was the first one that came to mind as far as foreign films and horror that I thought of tied to religion.
Right. You even
Um,
look at Lars von Trier's Antichrist. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've seen that one, uh,
I haven't
which
no.
is it's
Isn't that the movie
brutal.
where he has? That's the movie though where he got in trouble for the too realistically simulated sex film scenes,
Well,
right?
no, there was actual sex scenes in it, right?
Oh, okay, my mistake.
It wasn't even like they got too adult. So Willem Dafoe's in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, they actually had two adult actors actually having sex in just a very quick scene in it.
Yeah.
But it's a very brutal story, but it's like it's weird because it's like you think it's misogynistic, like because it's talking about how nature is evil and kind of women represent nature. But I think it's more of a hey, you think that I'm misogynistic, so I'm going to make something that makes you think that I am. I don't know.
Right.
There's something behind it, but it's a very beautifully shot movie, and you can take away what you want from it, but it's it's an experience.
I'm afraid to ask what that movie was called again because you mentioned the real sex scene in it. And I don't want
It's
to be a pervert.
Antichrist.
So I'll get that from
So,
you afterwards.
so this is the start of the movie, so it's not a big spoiler. But they have the couple, which is supposed to be Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsborough, having sex while their infant son falls out of a window and dies.
Oh,
Holy
So
God,
that's
dang.
the
Okay.
start of the movie. And Willem Dafoe is a psychiatrist, and obviously Charlotte Gainsborough is going through a lot of mental issues because of what happened. So he takes her away
Yeah.
into like a cabin that they have, and he tries to fix her,
oh.
which closes
Got it. Okay.
well as you would think. Because he's still a husband and he lost a child too. And it's like
So it's kind of more
Right.
grief horror.
it's art
in a way.
house. It's an art house, but it's
Yeah.
engaging. A lot of art house stuff is kind of boring and bland, and well, it looks nice, but
Right.
you don't really follow what they're doing.
Right.
This one, yeah, definitely. If you're okay with that sort of stuff,
Yeah. That's
check
fine.
it out.
So,
Perfect. I'll have to add that one to the list too. I got a whole bunch of movies now. I gotta
Mark,
go
before we
watch.
get into what we've watched, right?
Yes.
I had an exciting opportunity to watch a new movie.
Oh,
I've been
Right?
waiting for this part.
did you share that opportunity with me, Jim?
I did actually, and you just have slacked on your duties. So we were contacted by Strike Media, who offered us the opportunity to watch a screener for the new movie Dr. Jekyll, with starring Susie / Eddie Izzard. I'm not sure what they're going by at this time, but so I got the chance to watch it, and I watched it with Ray. We sat down in the living room, and I have to say, this movie is not going to be for everybody. This is definitely a niche film. Eddie Izzard plays Nina Jekyll and Rachel Hyde, and it's exactly what you would think, but it goes more almost the possession route, and not so much the science route, because this Hyde curse has been passed down from generation to generation, and it takes other bodies. Like, you have to willingly give yourself to it in order for it to consume you. So I will say about the cinematography, the movie is beautiful. It does a great job of capturing the gothic ambiance of the old Hammer films, because this is a Hammer film. And the story is solid. It's very much a slow burn, but it's very engaging, at least for me. The main character, Dr. Jekyll, is a trans character, but I appreciate the fact that just because she was a trans character, the Mr. Hyde version of herself did not become male. It was still a trans character dealing with the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I thought was fantastic.
So thematically, Jim,
Mm-hmm.
does it make sense?
It does. I think it does, because the differences between Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde are very subtle. So you don't know who you're watching on screen until it all comes together at the end.
So I think they had another movie called Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde.
They did. It was Steven Weber, I believe. No, not Steven Weber.
No,
the other
this
guy
was-
from Wings.
No, this was way before that. This was a Hammer horror movie.
Mm. Okay, I'm not
anyway,
familiar with that one.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, but I have to say I really appreciated the subtle nuances. And once you get to the end of this film and you realize what's going on, you go back and you rethink the rest of the film, and you go, oh, that's right, you see this, so now you know who you're looking at, rather than just, why is she behaving so strangely?
So do they use that as a plot device?
They do not, no. So the only time they ever talk about the character being trans is in a flash of, during the credit scene. It calls the character the first trans head of a multi-million-dollar corporation or something like that.
Right. So the Hammer horror movie with Ralph Bates in it from 1971.
Mm-hmm.
It's Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Ah, not familiar with that one.
But I wonder if it's an updated version of that.
I don't know. I couldn't say for sure because I haven't seen it.
So getting past Jim, I know you hate woke stuff. Getting past anything that's just that transgender thing
Mhm.
or whatever. How did you like the movie?
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the slow burn aspect. It definitely was not a perfect film, but like, I appreciated the fact that it almost centers around. Did you ever see the movie Mary Riley? with Julia Roberts.
Yes.
So it's almost told from that
Yeah,
point of view. Yeah, I mean it's not a great movie, but still, it's told sort of from that point of view because you're experiencing everything between Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde via her caretaker, who who they have hired, even though they have a violent felony or excuse me, a felonious past, and she's willing to give them a second chance. And that's all I'm going to say about that part of the plot because I would have to give away too much.
Right. And don't get me wrong. I mean, it's probably, if you're looking at classic movies, apart from maybe like a Frankenstein's monster
Right.
or like a gender swap or a trans sort of thing, it probably makes the most sense, that story.
Well, but that's the thing. That's the part that I liked about it is yes, they do address the fact that the main character is trans, but that's the end of the conversation. There's no part in the film where that becomes a focal point.
Okay, so it's not pandering
Correct.
to
Right.
that.
Yep. Agreed. They do, like I said, they mention it in a brief flash of an article as they're going through the credit sequence, and then it's never brought up again.
Okay, so it's maybe we're just talking too much about it then.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely highlighting it too much because it does not focus that prominently in the movie.
Okay, and that's fine for me.
Yes.
Because
no,
I'm not saying it would be fine otherwise, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, it's not. It's
what you're saying. There's certain movies that maybe people say virtue signaling or whatever.
Right, exactly, and that is one thing that I appreciated about it is it did not go too far into that sort of pandering or trying to make a political statement about that.
You can still make a point with the movie. I mean,
right.
You look at Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's totally gay trans.
Yeah, but
they did that on purpose, and that's part of what people like about it.
Right. And this is, you and I have had this conversation before. Is I have a big issue with main characters where the focus is trying to make them different from the general public, and that just drives me absolutely insane. Yeah. And that's what I appreciated about this.
Timothy, sorry, I think you were saying something. We're probably talking over you.
No, you're good. I'm just listening. I was wondering. I was going to ask him, but you kind of already answered the question. Is if the Dr. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde?
That's what I've been calling it. But yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was like a social commentary of two battling bodies in one kind of thing, but you kind of answered that. It wasn't
no,
really
not at all, because the Dr. Jekyll portion, which is Nina Jekyll, becomes Rachel Hyde. So they're both presenting as female.
Okay, gotcha. I actually, so this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I actually really like trans horror. I think it's a really awesome opportunity to explore body horror. And I read one recently called Transfigured or Transfiguration. I have to look it up, but it's by Eve Harms. Really weird story, kind of bizarro, kind of out there. But it's about like the extremes that somebody would go to pass or present in the way that they're looking to present. So that kind of goes along with that.
And that's like I said, I did a quick review of that Bad Girl, was it Bad Girl Boogie? Was that the name of the movie? That's the one I did a TikTok video about it. Which is it's a trans queer slasher. And it almost focuses a little too heavily on that aspect, like trying to make it the focal point of what brings these people together, rather than the way that Dr. Jekyll did it. And it's part of the story, and you move past it and just get on with it, right? And that's what I appreciate that part of it. That's what I think I liked the most about this film is the fact that yes, it's there and we acknowledge it, but then we move past it and it's just a movie.
Well, hopefully we'll get to a certain point in the future where it's not like this is a black slasher, or this is a feminist slasher, or this is a trans slasher, right? It's just a slasher movie.
Right. But with that Bad Girl Boogie, I did actually really enjoy that movie, but mostly because of the way that it dealt with the mental health issues. and the way that it was beautifully shot. But that's another story. Anyway, so that's what I thought of Dr. Jekyll. I thought it was fantastic.
And
I
of course,
absolutely loved it.
Eddie Izzard as a star, right?
Absolutely, Eddie Izzard is the headliner in the film, and he or she is everywhere. I don't know how they identify. So,
Well, growing up in the UK, he was like the first major comedian
mm-hmm.
that would be like wearing dresses and stuff,
Right.
and just talking about, whatever. But he's super smart.
Yep.
And did you know, like, he runs like marathon? He did like 30 marathons in 30
Wow.
days.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was good for a girl.
I
Okay, I'll be back in one second.
I bet he could still kick your ass, Mark.
Oh, absolutely.
So, anyway, Timothy, that's what I thought. I think it's great, but I also think it's going to be a very niche film. I don't think it's going to be for everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I'm okay
Mhm.
with slow burns. I enjoy. So I'm weird. I enjoy slow burns in
Yep.
movie form. I'm not a huge slow burn.
Well,
when
yeah,
it
of
comes
course,
to
because
books.
at least for me anyway, when I'm reading a book, if it's too slow, I get bored and I get sidetracked.
Yeah, right. Whereas if I'm reading a book and it's a slow burn, that's gonna take me
Right.
hours and hours, if not days. Versus a movie, it's gonna be
Right.
over
And
in an hour and a half. So even
and
versus
that's what I
slow
liked
burn
about this
movie.
is that the whole point of it becomes to tell who she is at what particular point in the movie. And that's the
I
part
like
that I
that.
really enjoyed. Like because as soon as the big reveal comes towards the end, because I'll be perfectly honest, up until that third act, where all hell breaks loose, it's pretty slow. So it's sort of building,
Okay.
but it never loses that momentum it never lost that momentum for me.
I like it. Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna check that one out. I'm excited about that one. Um, I think you also mentioned something about the other one, the
Bad
boogie.
Girl Boogie.
What'd you call it? What was it?
Yep.
Bad girl boogie, and you were talking about the
Yes.
mental health aspect of it. That's another thing
Yep.
that I love in horror. Is mental health issues.
And
And addressing
specifically the way that they shot the PTS, and I can't say this for certain because I don't know what PTSD is like, is what I presume is the main character Angel dealing with PTSD and her flashbacks to the trauma that she suffered. I think it was fucking beautiful. Like the way they shot it was amazing.
Yeah,
So-
I love that. I think one. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
Mark, go ahead.
sorry, Timothy. I don't know if you've seen or heard about the ninth configuration.
Oh Jesus Christ! Do we have to talk about that again?
Yes.
I don't know anything
Okay,
about
so
that.
this is
You don't need to.
This is William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, right? So he wrote the ninth configuration
Okay.
too, and this was his first directorial debut. This is a movie that's a somewhat sequel to The Exorcist, but it's kind of not. It just has like one of the characters, like a side character from the first one. But this is
Okay.
set in a military mental institution, and it's very funny. If you think about like the humor in Exorcist 3, it's more of that, but it's just filled with like genre stars. It's like a cult classic. It's not horror per se, but there are certain parts in it where you're like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Definitely a big recommend. I love that movie.
You said that was ninth
The ninth
configuration.
configuration.
Configuration. Okay. I'll
So-
check that out. I got a whole list of here. I'm going to drive my wife crazy with all the movies we're
What I
about to
will
be
say about
watching.
the ninth configuration, it is a great piece of bizarro cinema. It's just it's very odd. The whole movie, you're just like, what? Like I'm watching what now? I really did like it, but Mark likes to talk about it excessively.
So did you bring that up because we were talking about the mental health aspect of it, or
because
Okay.
again, it's set around a military mental health facility.
Mm-hmm.
okay? I'll tell you one book that I would love to I would love to see be made into a movie is A Head Full
Oh
of Ghosts.
man, that book is fantastic.
It's unbelievable. It's written by Paul Tremblay, who's the same author who wrote The Cabin at the End of
Ugh.
the World that
Yeah,
just
yeah,
came
yeah.
out recently. So the movie, The Cabin at the End of the World is whatever. It's not great, but Paul Tremblay, his books are
Wait,
amazing. That one is about a girl who may or may not be
yep,
schizophrenic.
right.
We don't really know. And her family's convinced that she's possessed. And they bring in a film crew to film the whole
Yep,
exorcist process. And it was amazing. It's told from the perspective of a
right.
younger sister. So you're only getting some of the information, not all of the information.
Well, but
It's like filtered through her
But
eyes
there's
too. It's
also a
amazing.
twist in that too when you talk about how you're receiving the information about what actually happened, which I don't want to spoil for anybody because Head Full of Ghosts so far is my favorite Paul Tremblay book. He is right now 2 for
Yep.
2 with me. I hated Cabin at the End of the World, and I just read Survivor. I just listened to Survivor Song on Audible, and it was terrible too.
Survivor Song was amazing.
I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
What?
I was
You
so
hated it?
bored through most of that book.
Oh, I
Erin
love
Burnett
that
is
one.
the only reason I finished that book. She is a fantastic narrator.
Okay.
I
That's
did,
fair.
but like I said, The Disappearance at Devil's Rock and Head Full of Ghosts are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But sorry, I got up on a tangent there with that one because that is one book that
Yeah.
I would love to be seen made into a movie because it is when you talk about mental health and the exorcism that we were talking about earlier, it's like if you just smash the two together and then throw in a reality TV show on top of it. It is
Absolutely.
amazing.
So another one like in that genre, I think, is The Last Exorcism.
Ugh.
Have you seen that one?
I watched it. I don't really remember much about it. I watched it a while
Yeah.
ago.
So the main guy is like a preacher, right? And he goes around doing these exorcisms, and they're doing like a documentary about him. But he's like coming out right as far as saying all of this is just like crap, like it's just all performance, right? So he goes to like it's his last exorcism, and they're like, "Is this girl like being abused by her dad and stuff?" There's a lot of that back and forward where you don't really know.
I do remember that now.
Is
that you
it
say
this
that.
one or the one, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, that has Jennifer Carpenter in it?
No, it's Exorcism of Emily Rose. And
Okay,
it's
great.
Jennifer Carpenter.
Because that means that I liked this one.
Yeah, The Last Exorcism is great. The second one,
I was saying I didn't like the Emily Rose one.
So
very
I have
much.
a love. Well, no, I don't have a love-hate relationship. I have a hate-hate relationship with Jennifer Carpenter. I cannot stand her as an actress.
All right. Well, hopefully Jennifer Carpenter.
I
isn't
seriously
listening
doubt
right
she
now.
is.
She was very nice,
I understand she is very nice. I really did not like her character in
and she's a
Dexter.
really good actress.
You say George C. Scott is a good actor, so I don't take your
Yes, yes. The
seriously.
Oscar winner George C. Scott
He has
for
zero.
acting is a good actor. Correct. Jim?
He is not a good actor. He has
Well,
zero emotion.
maybe take it up with the Oscars and tell.
Oh,
them
right,
that-
because they're the be all end all, right? Like they've always
I'm
made
just
great
saying-
decisions.
I'm just saying, if you're a bad actor, do you win an Oscar?
Yes, you do.
Ooh. Name me a
George-
bad actor. This one,
George C. Scott.
apart from George C. Scott. Name me an actor that's won the Best Actor award. That's a terrible actor.
George C. Scott.
Apart from George C. Scott, go.
I'll die on that hill right now.
Now then go somebody else.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. But I'll do some homework for next week. I'll do some homework for next week.
So anyway, Timothy, at the end of our podcast, we usually ask, what have you watched or read, or is there anything you want to talk about that you've done recently? So is there any TV shows, movies, books, anything that you want to talk about?
Not horror
It
related.
doesn't have to be horror related.
Go.
Anything.
Oh man, the only thing. So all right, so I've been so engrossed in the writing process for the last 8 months or so, since August of last year, that I didn't watch any TV, movies, anything like that. I basically just every night come in after I put the kids to bed and just wrote. So I've been trying to catch up on a lot of stuff. In the last couple months, I watched The Pope's
And
Exorcist.
what'd you think?
I wouldn't even really classify it as horror. That almost felt more
Yeah.
like a drama to me. I didn't mind it. It wasn't bad. I liked it.
If
It
you
was
want to see something in that vein, please watch The Right with Anthony Hopkins if you haven't seen it yet.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
That was really good. I'm trying to think what else did I watch recently. My wife and I have been binging Love Is Blind. So that's our guilty pleasure right now.
I don't know what that
Um,
is.
but it's a stupid reality
Oh.
TV show where they put all these single people in pods and they can't see each other and have to try to fall in love without seeing each other. So my wife and I have been binge watching that because like I said, I'm trying to catch up on all my TV and movies since I'm kind of taking a little hiatus from writing for about a week.
No
or two,
judgment.
so binge watching
But
everything.
there's secretly a lot of judgment about that, but I'm just going to say no judgment.
Yeah, Timothy. I would rather punch myself in the balls than watch that.
Hey, look, everyone's
Yeah,
got
they
guilty
do, they do.
pleasures. I'm trying to think of
We're all unique.
And we all say no
Yeah.
judgment, but we're all secretly judging, so it's okay.
secretly
Yeah.
judging me. That's okay. I can accept it. I can handle it. I wrote a book and put it out into the world. People are judging
I
the hell out of
cannot
me,
wait
so it's
to read
fine. I'm pretty happy with it. My mom read it, which was a little nerve wracking because I was worried what she was going to think. She liked it.
She stole the proof copy from your wife, didn't she?
She did, yeah. Mark, this is kind of a funny story. So my wife, I think I mentioned to you guys earlier, she doesn't read ebooks and stuff, so she's been waiting for the proof copy to come in so she can read the book. And we got it the day before the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
So my parents came over to watch the Super Bowl, and I was like, "Oh, that's your book," and just grabbed it and left. She's like, "I'm gonna read it on the way out." So my wife didn't get a chance to read it, so my mom's had it, and then she went to Savannah, Georgia, for 2 weeks. So she had the book up there. My wife just got it back.
The funny thing, that Super Bowl was so long, she probably could have read the whole thing
in that one sitting. Yeah, absolutely. She definitely could have. That was the longest Super Bowl. I could not wait for that Super Bowl to be over. So I wrote under a pen name because there's a lot. I really toe the line with extreme horror and like splatterpunk and stuff in that book. So I didn't want to. I was worried about what some of my family members, my coworkers would think, things like that. So I told my parents about it. What's the first thing that my mom does? She tells the entire family in a giant group text. Everybody. So now my whole entire family has ordered the book, and I was like, man, I cannot wait to be blacklisted by the whole family.
Is it your uncle? Who's your
my great uncle? Yeah, my great uncle's a priest in New York.
And he pre-ordered the book.
He did, yeah. So I can't wait to hear about this at Christmas. It's gonna be great.
I'm excited to read it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have it out there finally. It's a really cool experience. It's also very nerve wracking. You never know what people are gonna think. So far, I haven't gotten any bad reviews on it, but it's still early. Yeah. We'll see. I've been told by some of my author friends, Mike Salt, who actually wrote the Linkville series, Jim, that you and I were reading the other day. I follow him. When him and I were talking about ratings and reviews and things like that, he told me that I'm not a real author until I get a 1-star review. I'm not inviting anybody to do that. Please don't do that. We could just stay at 5s and 4s, and I won't be a real author. That's fine. But apparently that's like the badge of courage, the red badge of courage that you have to wear to be a real author.
I almost feel duty bound now.
Oh, don't do that, Jim. I'm not asking for it.
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
Appreciate that.
I'll be honest, but I won't do 1-star.
That's fine. I expect honesty. If it's honestly a 1-star, Jim, I'm not gonna hold it against
you.
Do
it. I mean,
yeah, we've already had this conversation offline, Mark. So we know he knows what to expect.
Like for this podcast, a 1-star, I'm like, I don't blame you.
Exactly, I don't blame you either because I have to put up with Mark every day.
Give an extra star for Timothy.
It's I had a really scary moment actually today. I sent an advanced copy to a TikToker, and she let me know this morning that she started reading it. And then about 2 hours after that, she posted a video saying that she's going to be a lot more brutally honest in her reviews and really let people know how she feels about it, about books. And I messaged her. I was like, hey, look, I get it. If that's how you feel about my book, that's fine. You don't have to finish it if you really hate it that much. She's like, no, it's this other book. This author was giving me a hard time. She's like, so far I'm loving your book. I'm like, all right, cool. I was really scared for a minute there.
Well, we won't ask you for names, but that's interesting.
But you want honesty, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because like online, it's like so toxic. It's like, oh, I'm PlayStation and you're Xbox, so everything PlayStation's
Yeah.
terrible, blah, 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 blah. But you want people to actually like look at things and say, hey, this is what I actually think. I mean, I like this part. I didn't like this part. Okay.
So Mark,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we
Right.
grow as creators.
and Mark,
so.
you're a little too old for the talk, so you don't understand. But there's
Uh,
always a lot of drama in the horror community. Always,
the
it's
old
insane.
TikTok.
Yeah,
I stay out of
I
it, Jim.
agree. I do
stay
the
out of
same
it
thing. Like
completely.
I don't have to talk about it at all.
Nope. I avoid it like the plague. I don't want any part of it. I'm a baby author. I'm a little
Yep.
guy in a big pond. I'm not trying to
Exactly.
get
I don't
involved.
need to release a statement about anything. I have 1,000 followers, and
Nope.
I'm good.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm in the same boat.
I can't even stand anything I do. So if anybody can stand it, it's fine.
There's at least one more on this podcast that agrees with you, Mark.
If people say, "Oh, it's terrible," I'm like, "Yeah, I agree with you."
Yeah, there's one person on this.
We just came out here and weighing it. We're
Yeah,
winging
exactly.
it. So.
And Mark, I wholeheartedly agree. I can't stand anything you do either.
No, I know. I agree with you. Doesn't bother me. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Nobody can be a harsher critic on me than me. So.
Oh, I agree. I know that. I know that for a fact.
Mhm.
I think that's a good way to be, though. You know, helps.
Yeah,
protect
it's
yourself.
probably not a good mental health state to be in.
Yeah, no,
Oh
not at
no,
all.
not
no.
at all. No, we're miserable, but
We're miserable. But we put out good shit.
yeah, no, I'm miserable, but I'll put out
That's
some good
right.
content for you.
It's like
Just be miserable the whole
it's
time.
like you can't punch me in the face any harder than I punch myself in the face, so you lose. But really,
Right.
punching myself
Yeah.
in the face all the time. So
Yeah, we were joking about 1-star reviews and stuff, and you know what? There's nothing that you can say to me that I didn't say to myself during that writing process
Right.
a million times. The amount of times that I went to bed and told my wife, I'm like, everything I wrote was just complete and utter trash. So we're gonna start over again tomorrow.
like I'm the sort of person, if somebody gives me a compliment, I think they're lying to me. So it's just like that's my
And
mental.
I can attest to that because I gave him a compliment when I invaded his house last
Yeah,
weekend, and,
yeah,
and
that's
he's
true.
like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, liar.
Yep.
Was this before or after he tried to get you to join Scientology?
This was after, actually. Yeah, this was after. I still complimented him, even though he
Maybe
gave me
maybe I should like go get some superpowers or Scientology.
that.
You got to
Maybe I
go clear,
need
man.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Timothy, what else have you been watching, reading? You want to add?
Not really watching a whole lot. Like I said, just guilty pleasure trash TV. Reading. I read Survivor Song, which apparently Jim hated with every fiber.
Well, no,
of
it's not quite. It's not quite
I
that
liked
bad. I
it.
just found it extremely boring.
being.
I mean,
Yeah. I read The Pressure, which is coming out by a buddy of mine, Brian Wayne Dole. That one was pretty good. It's a real short novella.
I just ordered his box through his live from his TikTok shop. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah. I think you like that one. It's super fast paced. There's no downtime in it whatsoever. The first like 500 words is about as slow as it gets, and then it just goes right to 1,000 and just stays there for the rest of the book.
I'm looking forward to that.
I like that one a lot because I get chronic migraines, and it's about a boy who suffers tension headaches whenever the barometric pressure drops, and when it does, he becomes incredibly violent. Almost, he kind of reminded me of the zombies from like 28 Days Later, where they're not like flesh eating zombies, but well, I mean they were in 28 Days Later, but I'm talking about him. He's not flesh eating, but almost still fully in control, still able to move around quickly, not mindless Walking Dead type zombies. So
Timothy, sorry, I have to be a horror snob here. They're not zombies; they're people infected with the rage virus. Aren't I supposed to hang around with?
So,
yeah,
I have a question.
That's why it's a good fit, though.
I have a question for you, Timothy, because a mutual follower that we have on TikTok is going, and I were having this disagreement earlier. Fast or slow zombies?
Oh,
Thank
fast
you.
zombies.
Thank
Fast
you.
zombies are terrifying.
I totally agree. Jessica, ha.
It's not even a
Right?
conversation.
So the conversation should not be fast or slow zombies. It should be the Return of the Living Dead zombies are the most terrifying zombies out there.
Why?
Why? Okay, so they can come up with plans. They can run.
Okay.
If you try and burn them, they'll just make more zombies. If you cut them up, it doesn't matter. They'll still come after you.
Okay.
There's no way to defeat them. There's no way to defeat them.
So you say that, but Scariest Zombie Ever, I cannot remember the movie, but I watched it. It was like a B-rated British flick of parkour zombies.
Parkour zombies?
Dude, when I tell you, you could, these guys, there's no way I'd be dead in 5 seconds. These zombies were doing backflips off of roofs and stuff. I'm like, yeah,
I need to look that up because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out what it was and show it to you. I watched it years ago with my dad. Him and I sat on the couch at like 5 a.m. one time, and it was like one of the first things that popped up is like the description of it was like, what do you do when you get attacked by parkour zombies? And me and my dad were both like, yep, that's the movie we're watching this morning. Obviously. I'll have to find it for you.
I wonder if it's zombie parkour.
It very well
That's
could
from
be
2011.
it. Yeah, no, that definitely could be it. It was probably around that time because that's when I graduated high school.
It's the natural evolution of zombies.
Yeah, I will tell you, it was not a great movie, whatever it was, but parkour zombies, that's
it's
terrifying.
like extreme zombies, and they're all on skateboards and stuff after you.
Yeah, no, but 100% running zombies though. Running zombies are terrifying because I'm a big guy. I don't run real fast. I can definitely fast walk though. I could fast walk away from a horde of
There's
zombies.
I'm sorry, as far as like I get the slow zombies because there's a lot of them, but the start of 28 weeks later, when they're running down the hill at him, is just terrifying. Same with like the Dawn of the Dead remake when they're all running after them. It's just like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Like I do not have the lung capacity to run away from you. So
Absolutely not. I'm giving up.
yeah,
on it
exactly.
because
Yep, I absolutely agree.
I got winded walking
Yeah, exactly.
upstairs,
I have to crawl under a desk and do what? Yeah, no.
Yeah. I heard they're coming out with 28
They
years
are.
later now. I'm excited
There's
for that.
rumors that
should be
Cillian Murphy
good.
might return.
Cillian Murphy might be, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
wouldn't he be like really old at that point? I don't know.
What are you saying, Mark?
Still.
Huh?
What are you saying? Because I actually had this conversation earlier today where somebody brought up something that happened 30 years ago in my life.
Right, and you're old.
Fuck you.
Okay.
I mean, 30 years ago, I was.
Please
just
don't.
getting
Please
born,
don't.
so
Tim,
I'm
Tim,
31.
I like you right now, so let's just stop right there.
I had to do it to you,
I
Jim.
know,
You
I
left
know
the door
I
open.
did. I do that all
I
the time.
left the
at
door
work,
open, and there was a home invasion. So
too. Your door was not open.
And now he's a Scientologist.
He did not.
He's
I will
got
just say,
superpowers now.
there was not a door left open. I had to ring a bell. Actually, I don't think we did.
You know what? If you guys join Scientology, Tom Cruise could probably help you promote the
Yeah,
You know,
probably.
Tom Cruise has an apartment in Clearwater, right?
Hey,
He has to. I mean,
So-
If you go to downtown Clearwater, so they built that whole sound thing. Have you seen that? That
I haven't been over to Clearwater in a while.
so
but-
so look up the sound in Clearwater. They built like a big stadium type thing for concerts, which is cool because I'm going to go see Bad Religion in a couple of months down there. But he has an apartment in one of the buildings, and yeah.
you should ask Tim. You should ask Mark who his neighbor is.
Mark, who is your neighbor?
I don't know, Jim. Who's my neighbor?
Alex Vincent.
Well, he's not my neighbor. So you know Alex Vincent,
Dude, every time we see him at a convention, it's he lives down the street from me. That's
He
a
does.
neighbor.
So Alex Vincent is the kid from Child's Play,
Yeah.
and he lives off Gulf to Bay in Clearwater.
Huh, I did not know that.
So I stalk him every day. No, I'm not kidding.
Alex, if you're listening, no.
Alex, if you're listening.
Don't tell him.
Too late.
That's
It's already out there. Because he's probably one of our 3 fans. So
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, duh.
um,
Okay, Timothy. Any other things you want to talk about?
No, man, I'm good.
Mark,
Jim?
you want to go? You want to go, or you want me to talk?
Why don't you go, then I'll go last.
So I already talked about 2 of the movies that I'd already seen. I talked about the Bad Girl Boogie and Dr. Jekyll. So the other thing I want to talk about is a couple of audiobooks that I read. One was All the Rage by David Hardy.
speaking of zombies.
That's a little more extreme than I generally like, but it's a solid story. It deals a lot with trauma inflicted by due to sexual violence. So that was a little bit of a problem for me, but it's not done in a way that doesn't pertain to the story. Right? It's not just thrown in there to be disgusting, but it's quite
Right.
graphic. So that was
I haven't read that one yet. How was the
the
narrator
narrator's
on it?
great. I have no complaints with the because so there's two different narrators. One is Joe Hempel, and then there's Tom Jordan, and I forget the lady's name because it's told from two different points of view. And there's a male and a female protagonist, and it goes back and forth.
Yeah, I'll grab it. I'll
Yeah,
definitely
it's
pick that one
definitely
up.
worth a read. I think you probably enjoyed a little more than I did because you don't have the extreme issue that I do. Um,
Right.
I did also listen to Survivor Song. I was completely bored. Had it not been for the narrator, I would not have finished. But then,
She was
what's
amazing.
that?
I said she
Yeah,
was
Erin
amazing.
Burnett. That's like the third or fourth book I've heard her narrate, and she's great. She's great.
Is that the woman from CNN? That sounds like her.
I don't
Erin
think so.
Burnett.
The name is the same, but I don't think it's the same person. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Oh,
The
like,
other the other book that I read this week was just a fun read, a fun stupid read because I'd been having a shit week. I had had several bombs as far as audiobooks go because I also read The Valley this week. So, um,
Oh, that the Valley
it
one is
was
good.
not. But I will say this: I love the entire Linkville series with the exception of that book.
I agree. I'm in the same
Yep.
boat as you are.
But I listened to a book called Board Gay Werewolf.
I not heard that
So
one yet. How was
this
that?
was it was a fun little read. So it's about this kid who gets cursed because he's just a piece of shit human being to become a werewolf and how he has to deal with that in his everyday life.
like
It's
Teen Wolf.
kind of yeah. It is. It's very light and fluffy. It's not. There's no real stakes involved. You know, it's just kind of a light thing. It does get a little bit graphic with the sex. The first time it does, though, it's pertinent to the story because he's getting attacked by a dog, so it's quite comical. And then the second time, it's just needless. Like I didn't really need to hear it, so I just fast forwarded through it. Um, but
Got it.
it's a funny book if you're looking for just a light, fluffy read. I liked it a lot.
I'll have to add that. If you like werewolf stuff, did you or have you listened to on audio or on Audible the Werewolves
I
15
have
minutes?
not heard of that one yet.
That one's
Okay.
free. It's only like an hour and 45
Right.
minutes long. It's about a guy who's desperate for money, so he decides he's a werewolf and he decides to make YouTube videos of him transforming into
Huh.
a werewolf. And it's about him becoming famous
Oh,
because of it.
nice.
It's pretty
That sounds
funny.
that sounds great. I just picked up a book that I just got in the mail this week called Kane, and it's about a wolf that gets bitten and turns into a human. I'm looking forward to that.
I've not heard
Yeah.
of that one.
I'm looking forward to that.
As far as werewolves go, I think my number one werewolf book that I really want to read right now is My Pet
I
Werewolf.
have that on my shelf. I haven't read it yet. I read his other book, Pursuit, first.
Yeah, I want to read that one. I haven't
So
read that
there's
yet.
that, and then he's got the. This is by James Kane, by the way, Mark. In case you're interested,
Yeah.
he's got the prequel Gunther, which is supposed to be really good. I
Yeah, I need to grab.
Yeah,
both
I haven't
of
read
those.
either one yet. He just put Gunther out in print though, so I'm excited about that. Because I have an obsession now with signed copies, even if I've read an audiobook. Like we went to go see David R. Slayton, and I already own every book he's ever written in paperback and in Audible, and then I bought the hardback version just so he could sign it of one of his books.
That's awesome. I actually just got my first two signed copies of a book, both by Ellen
Oh, yeah.
Kaplan, the one I narrated the book for. So he sent me a physical copy of mine that he signed, and then he sent me his vampire story
Oh,
fan
nice.
fiction. Yeah, so those are my only two signed copies that I own.
That's awesome.
Jim, you might have seen a couple of autograph posters when you came around.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
This
when I
one-
invaded somebody's home last weekend.
Yeah, exactly. This one or two. This one.
One or two.
Were they signed by Tom Cruise?
No, but I will say our number one fan Debbie was quite enamored by the amount of memorabilia in your room.
Yeah, she was geeking out about it.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, what else, Jim?
That's it for me, Mark. What do you got?
Okay, so I watched the 2021 Full Moon movie, The Resonator Miskatonic You.
Oh, I wonder why you watched that.
Well, just because it was on there. So Full
No,
Moon.
no, that is not why.
No,
Because
no,
we had a conversation about Miskatonic when I was at your house.
no, but that was just coincidence.
Oh, was it? I doubt it.
No, yeah, it was. I bought that like years ago.
Did
Anyway, 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 so Full Moon Productions, obviously Charles Band, very low budget, especially now, right? And I wasn't expecting much from this, but it really was a pretty good retelling of From Beyond.
Right.
And then they also had Herbert West pop up at the end.
Oh wow.
I quite liked it. I can't really tell, but I think it's like a series, maybe. But it's so like fractured. I have no idea. But yeah, it was like an hour long. It was fun.
Nice.
Rather than Crawford Tillinghast being just a assistant, it's like based in obviously Miskatonic U, so it's like a high school or college thing. So it's pretty good. I quite liked it.
Okay. Fair.
I watched 2023's The Marvels.
The Marvels. I don't think I've seen that one. That's the one with the 3 Captain Marvels, right?
Right. I kind of feel like Marvel has done Captain Marvel pretty bad. In the movies, and I really like Brie Larson. I think she's a great actress, and I think she's got a lot of charisma.
Yeah, but they treat her like garbage in that universe.
So I think they don't know what to do with her, right? Because her power level is like Superman, right? And it's hard to make a good Superman movie because they're just so like OP, right? But I think her interactions with Kamala Khan is pretty cool. But it's just a mess. It's just like I'm watching it. I'm like, who edited this together and who wrote this? Like, and it's fine. And I think we've been really spoiled. Like, I just imagine whenever I grew up in the '80s, right, thinking about, oh, imagine seeing a superhero movie that's really good. And then we've got so many great ones since then. And so now, if something's not like Infinity War or the Dark Knight, oh, it's shit. No. So this was kind of middle of the road. I think it was a missed opportunity, and I think the MCU is struggling quite a bit. So I'm hoping Deadpool and Wolverine kind of rescue it.
I am so excited about Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm so worried that it's going to be just garbage.
I think it'll be funny.
I want it to be funny, but I feel like it's going to be a lot of fan service.
Well, Deadpool's always fan service because
but I mean over the top. Like normally he breaks the fourth wall, yes, and that's part of his charm, the charm of that character. But I'm afraid that this is going to be too much.
Well, I mean, She-Hulk did it more, and I really like.
But they did it in a good way. I'm so nervous that they're going to.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think this is probably going to be funny with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Anyways.
What about you, Tim? What do you think?
So for the Marvels, I kind of gave up on them after Endgame. I haven't really liked anything that they've done since, but I do love Deadpool. So they could literally put anything together for Deadpool. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to love it as long as Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. So that's it.
The funny stories. Nobody remembers this, but when I was a kid, God, there was a TV.
Jim's got one of his childhood story trauma.
No, I'm not. When I was younger, there was a show on Nickelodeon called 15, and Ryan Reynolds was one of the main characters. And he played this geekish kid that was in love with, the popular girl who wanted to run away, and he gave her money to run away, blah, blah, blah. But I've been a fan of his ever since then. So I will pretty much watch anything he's in.
Did you see the horror movie that Ryan Reynolds
Which
did?
one, Amityville?
No, the where he was a serial killer.
Oh, Voices. Yeah,
Voices.
that's
That's
a
it.
horror
With
comedy, and he was magnificent.
yeah, and it's got the girl from Pitch Perfect.
Oh
What is
yeah,
her
yeah,
name?
yeah.
I used to have such a crush on her, and I can't think of her name now.
I don't.
Anna
Oh
Kendrick.
yeah,
My
yeah,
wife
yeah,
just
yeah.
whispered it over my
It was.
shoulder. Anna Kendrick. Yeah,
But yeah, that was a perfect role for him. It was fantastic.
yeah, that was a good one. Did you see
No,
that
I
one,
haven't
Mark?
seen it yet.
What are you
All right,
talking
check it out.
about?
It was a good. It was a
No,
good
no,
flick.
yeah, I've heard pretty good things about it. It's just one of those.
If you want to see a really bizarro flick though, Timothy, I recommend The Deep. That's
Deep.
or actually I think it's The Deep Dark. I'll send you the screenshot of the cover. But it's about
Okay.
this guy who finds a talking hole in his apartment, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, I'm in. That's all you had to say.
So he found you, Jim.
I am not even going to dignify that with an answer.
Okay, so moving quickly along.
Too late.
I don't know how I haven't seen this before, but it's 2007's Dario Argento's Mother of Tears.
Okay.
Jim, you're well versed on the three mothers, Dario Argento's movies. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Bite me, Mark.
So, what's the first movie in that series?
Bite me, Mark.
So, first one is Suspiria,
Ick.
which is the mother of sighs.
Hmm.
The next one is Inferno, which is, I think, the mother of darkness, maybe?
Yeah, I watched that 3 times last week.
Yeah. So both Inferno and Suspiria are very well known because they're very colorful, right? So there's a lot of artistic stuff in it. And it's not very coherent. Mother of Tears was made 20 years after both of those, with Asia Argento in it, and I like this quite a bit.
Okay.
It gets a lot of hate because it's not that flashy. Oh, look, it's like reds and blues and like crazy music and all this sort of stuff. It's actually pretty conventional. So I think a lot of people were just like reflecting on that compared to the first two.
Yep.
But this like starts and it goes, and there's no downtime. It's
Okay.
just like this and this and this, and not all of it makes a lot of sense, but most of it does. I think it kind of reminded me a bit of The Omen 3.
Okay.
Um,
I don't remember if I've seen The Omen 3.
with Sam Neill.
Sam
in it,
Neill. Yeah.
right? I mean, it literally has a scene of a woman throwing her baby into a river.
Okay.
Bye.
Does she scream, "It's all for you, Damien"?
Almost. And I swear to God, I've watched so many horror movies that like jump scares don't get me at all, ever.
You cannot tell me that nun or whatever that figure is in The Exorcist 3 doesn't get you.
Well, no, I mean, whenever I watched that, that was 30 years ago. I'm saying now, as I'm watching a movie, I can usually pick up,
Yeah,
you know,
generally I can, but if they're still done
the
well,
Insidious thing or a lot of the blah, and it's like really loud audio,
yeah.
and all that shit. But I can usually tell. And there's a jump scare in this movie, which totally got me because there's no other jump scares in this movie, and
Nice.
Argento is not really much of a jump scare person,
Right.
But I'm
He's
like,
more
oh my
of a
god!
Donald Duck guy.
I almost jumped up. I'm like, ah! So Mother of Tears, actually, I really liked it. I don't know why I haven't seen it before. Staying in Italy, Jim, your favorite director
Fulci.
from Italy is who?
Fulci.
Correct. So I watched 1990's A Cat in the Brain.
Is there a Donald Duck serial killer in this one?
So this movie, you look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, etc. Right?
Yeah.
It's very, very meta and Scream
Yes.
and all that sort of stuff. So who does Lucio Fulci play in A Cat in the Brain? He's an actor in it.
How would I know?
He plays Lucio Fulci.
Oh, sort of like Bob Shea. Always plays himself.
Sort of not. So it starts off with him directing one of his movies, right? And he's directing it with like an over the top gore scene where a woman's she's already dead, but she's getting her limbs chainsawed off.
Okay.
And then the guy's making meat, like putting her stuff in a grinder.
So he's like, it's like a Mrs. Lovett scene from Sweeney Todd.
I guess so. I don't know. So yeah, so
I forgot how afraid of.
He's making the meat from her limbs, right?
So Timothy, just as an FYI, Mark's afraid of musicals.
You're afraid of
I'm
musicals?
not afraid of them. I just don't like them.
Oh, there's some that are like it has to be done right for me.
So-
I'm not a huge musical.
Sweeney
fan
Todd
myself,
was great
but
though. You're missing.
No.
Sweeney Todd was
So like
solid.
the Blues Brothers or Little Shop of Horrors is great, but like whenever I started watching Sweeney Todd, I didn't realize they're all singing every single word. I'm like, oh my god.
They are not. It's an operetta. It's not an opera.
I don't care. Opera. Whatever.
Operetta means that there's
They're
some spoken
singing
word in
like
there.
every lyric. So whatever.
They are not. You're wrong.
So there's
I'm not cultured enough for those, so
Yeah.
that's
Me-
all you. That's all
I'm
you,
not
Jim.
cultured enough either. I'm just gay. Anyway.
and that's not cultured at all.
Fair enough.
It's gonna fit in to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
This will
Anyway, Mark, go on. Continue.
okay, so where was I? Oh, the Captain Brain. Okay, so I guess this is very polarizing in the Fulci fan community
All
because
three of you?
Fulci is a big deal.
To three of you. Yes.
No. So a lot of this is about Fulci, the director, and the main star as the actor of Lucio Fulci, the director, right? He's playing himself. And he thinks he's starting to go like insane because of the movies that he makes. And like, what is the impression that they're having on him? So after that initial scene where somebody's grinding up the meat of this person that he's directing, right? He goes to have lunch, and they go to offer him like some steak tartare. He's like, I can't do that. And then he thinks he's losing his mind. And he goes to like a psychiatrist, and then murders start to happen. And it's really, I thought it was really fun. I mean, there's not a lot of plot there other than kind of the meta thing going on where I'm a director of horror movies that is so disturbing that I myself am maybe becoming a serial killer.
I'm going to be honest. None of this sounds appetizing to me.
Oh, it's really good. I mean, a lot of it is just kind of like short scenes of brutal violence because he's directing something, and some of it's like from scenes from his prior movies and whatever. But it's super meta.
I'll just live
Yeah.
vicariously through you with your.
Yeah, you either. I mean, I can see why it's polarizing. I mean, you either like that or not. But I thought it was fun.
You're usually wrong though, so I'm not going to.
Then I watched 2017's Cold Skin.
I don't know.
Has
that
anybody
one.
seen this?
Is that the one with the one about the people in the lighthouse?
Yes.
Yeah, I have seen it. I liked that one a lot.
With Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, it's about the lighthouse keepers disappearing
Yeah,
and getting
which-
attacked. Yeah,
Which is kind of funny because it's almost a prototype of The Lighthouse.
which I haven't seen.
Because Ray Stevenson is a Willem Dafoe character
Yeah,
who's like nuts and crazy in it. And then there's a new guy coming in to
Yep.
not tend the lighthouse, but he was supposed to do something else in this remote island.
right.
And then we have weird sea creatures, Lovecraftian almost.
Right. I was going to say that.
Right. Which again, the lighthouse is very Lovecraftian.
Yep.
And
It almost gave me Dagon vibes, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about this, but there's a lot to be like, as watching him, like, I don't understand why this is happening, right?
Yeah.
Or this is happening.
There is
And
that.
I guess it's based on a novel, so maybe it explains more in the novel.
Maybe.
But as a movie, as a an audience member, I'm looking at it and saying, well, I don't really understand why this is happening, and
Oh,
they
if
didn't
you
really explain it.
if you like this movie, Tim, I don't know if you've read this or not, but this is has a lot of parallels with Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant, which is fantastic.
I have not
That
read
is-
it yet. I've got it on
It's
my
fantastic. Yeah,
list. Is
it
it?
really is.
Oh man, I love Lovecraftian
Yeah.
stuff. That kind of goes back into the religion side
Right.
of it too.
Then you should check out Cold Skin.
But I love all
You'd really dig
okay,
it.
Cold Skin. I need to watch The Lighthouse as well. And then you said the other one.
Dagon.
Dagon. I haven't watched that one yet.
So,
either.
That's-
so Dagon is Stuart Gordon, who made
Yep.
Reanimator and From Beyond. If you've seen
Yep.
those.
Yes, I think I have.
We're sending him away with homework, Mark. We're gonna have to have him
Oh,
back in a month.
I
to
know.
see-
You're going to have to come back and tell us what you think.
Yep. Absolutely.
I have a whole list of them, like, all right, guys, we're just gonna pound through these. Give me like. 20
I
minutes
expect
go
you to
through all
tag
this.
Chuck in every single video you do where you review these movies because I want to see what he thinks too.
Okay. All right. I will tell you, he specifically told me that he hates Hereditary.
I know.
so-
I do know that about him. So
Oh,
and he likes Rob Zombie's Halloween's, which is garbage. But you know,
Yep.
can't always be perfect.
I kind of like people that love movies I hate, though, because, making a movie is difficult. So
Yeah.
if
Oh, I
somebody-
agree. I agree.
And I hate it. Well, they haven't wasted their time.
That's right.
So the next one I watched, another Italian horror movie.
Oh,
Jim,
God.
you've probably seen it, which is 1981's Absurd,
No.
which, as I was reading up, it was like some people are saying it's a sequel to Anthropophagus. Jim, Anthropophagus, you've seen that?
Negatory, sir.
So this is a Joe D'Amato movie.
Who?
But
Joe, I thought he played baseball.
no, not Joe D'Amato.
DiMaggio.
Oh, my mistake. My mistake.
Jim Sullivan. So
That was my bad attempt at making a joke.
this is very much like a Italian knockoff of Halloween.
I might like that because I like the Italian knockoff of Jaws.
Right. With George Eastman again from Anthropophagus in it. And so he is this killer who has some sort of regenerative properties because a priest who's also a biologist was experimenting on him. And the priest is very much like the Donald Pleasance character in Halloween. This is also pretty familiar with Silent Rage. If you've seen the only Chuck Norris horror movie,
No, I have not.
where he's similarly up against a serial killer that can regenerate.
Okay.
But there's this movie is just so much fun. Like, this is where, like, you either like Italian movies because they're like so cheesy and bad, and just but entertaining at the same time. So so this is supposed to be set in America, right? And
Much
they
like The
have
Last Shark, yeah.
they have this. I guess they're supposed to be in their 40s. Mom and dad going around to their friend's house to watch some American football. And they're all dressed up in suits and ties. And as they're watching it, they're all eating spaghetti. that's what they were serving for their big football game. Because that's what happens in America.
Wait, hang on. Tim, you're a sports guy. Is that a thing? Spaghetti during football games?
It's never been a thing during any of my football games. Let's just say that.
Fair enough.
Spaghetti in suits and ties.
Maybe for Italian football. I don't know.
No, because and there's quite a lot of filler in this, and they're watching the Steelers playing. I don't remember the Rams. They have the kind of the broken English stuff, Jim, you've seen with Italian horror movies, where it's like, that's not how people talk, right? But it's still in English, and you still understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
But they have like the commentators doing that for this like football game in the background. They keep on showing it. It's funny.
Tim and I just had a conversation about that earlier this week about.
Oh God! Another one is the killer is in a hospital, right? And he kills one of the nurses, and the doctor calls another one of the nurses, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to tell you, nurse, whatever her name is, was brutally murdered today. I know she was your best friend, so I thought you wanted to know." I'm like, why would you say you're brutally murdered? Like,
Massacred.
Yeah.
there is some pretty cool gore scenes in here. There is a guy that gets his head cut kind of in half in the bandsaw, which is pretty
Nice.
cool. It actually is even a little better than the drill scene in City of the Living Dead. Jim?
Huh.
You've
Not
seen that?
familiar. No.
But anyway, absurd is absurd in a lot of ways. There's just the most annoying kid in it, which is, again, a staple of like Italian horror movies
Right.
in the 80s. But if you like that sort of thing, definitely check it out. I had a good time. The last thing that I've seen, so we're not holding Timothy hostage,
Too late.
No, I'm good. I got nowhere to be.
is Jim. I told you what I watched.
I don't remember.
Remember, I sent you emojis and you figured it out.
Oh, this was something that I hated. Yeah.
So, The Last Voyage of the Demeter,
Ugh.
which is a movie by the guy who made Troll Hunter, which is awesome, and the
Okay.
even better, The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
So Autopsy of Jane Doe, fantastic film. Troll Hunter, amazing.
Yep.
This movie is a giant snooze fest.
I kind of disagree. I think this was perfectly fine.
You're wrong, as usual.
But it's well acted. It's well directed. I think the scripting felt very scripted. Like when they're saying things, it felt like somebody's wrote this down, right?
So if you want to talk technicalities, yes, technically the visuals are good, the sets are good, the costumes are good, the acting is average, but the story, they took one chapter from a book that was written in the 1800s and they filled it out into an almost 2-hour movie and they changed the fucking ending.
So here's what when I was watching it, Jim, I'm like, I think they pitched it like this to get the money for it. I think they said it's like Alien.
Yeah.
But it's not a spaceship, it's an actual ship, and it's not an alien, it's Dracula.
I've heard that so many times and it does not fit. That you don't get the claustrophobia, you don't get the dread. It's boring. I fell asleep twice in the theaters watching this film.
No. I'm saying about what the scenario is, whether you thought it was boring or not. I think they were putting that same scenario.
No, but that's the thing. I see all these.
You cannot get off this boat like you can't get off the ship in the.
But I keep seeing that same. I see people on TikTok reviewing this movie and saying the same thing. Oh, it's like Alien, but it's on a ship. But it's not.
I don't go on TikTok, Jim. I'm not 12.
Am I wrong, Timothy?
No, I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know. I was actually just going to ask you guys, and then you answered about if it was actually related to Dracula, so that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit intrigued.
So
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's free on like Peacock or wherever I watched it.
Yeah.
And it's a little long. It's 2 hours long. It should have been like an hour and a half.
Yep.
But it's perfectly fine. It is
not perfectly fine.
It is.
It is not. They bastardized the source material. So the whole point of this, I don't know if you're. No. Wait. Hang on.
Wrote about the Demeter.
You got me started on this. You're gonna have to suffer. So Timothy, the whole point of this, right, has to do with this is a chapter from Bram Stoker's Dracula, where Dracula comes across the Atlantic on a vessel and arrives, and it's a ghost ship because everybody's dead.
Right.
So that's the premise of this movie. So you already know how it's supposed to end. The fun is supposed to be in getting there, and there is no fun in getting there. It's boring.
It's fine.
It's
It's
boring.
like I don't ever want to watch it again, but I would never say, "Oh, this is a terrible movie. Never watch it." I mean,
But I would.
if you're interested in it, it's not terrible. I
No,
mean,
and you probably
kind
will.
of telling that with faint praise, but I think it's perfectly fine.
Mm.
I'm
So,
glad I didn't pay to go see it in the movie
Thank
theater.
you. And that's probably where my disdain for it comes from, because I did actually pay for it.
oof. Something kind of on that vein. Did you guys see the Dracula TV show? It came out, I think,
I did.
2020,
I did. I
2019.
enjoyed that for the most part.
There, one of the episodes in there is basically the journey of the
Yeah.
Demeter, and that was pretty good. That was
Yes,
well
that
done.
was very well done. That series in general was really well done, but this is not that.
If you,
I might still have to
yeah,
check it out.
well, especially
Because
if you have it streaming for free, like I do.
if you have Peacock, then you're not
I
losing
do.
anything. In terms
Perfect. I'm gonna do it.
I'll just
If-
say, bring a blanket and a pillow.
There's some things that don't make sense about it, but it's fine. You know what it is? It's like a Sunday afternoon. It's raining outside, and you're just laying on the couch. You just want to watch something kind of mindless, and it's fine.
I'm in. I'm gonna do it. I've added it to the list. I've got The Sacrament, VHS 2, Ninth Configuration, Dagon, The Lighthouse, The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
That's,
Right, and watch those from the first one to the last one.
and then
Okay.
you have to come back and give us a report.
Give a
Yes.
report. Got it. I've got my
We-
responsibilities.
Yeah, we want a 3-page essay about each one of them.
No, we
about-
don't. I just want a thumbs up or
So-
a thumbs down.
Funny story on that. I actually, one of my college papers was a critique of the original Night of the Living
Oh.
Dead. And I got a great grade on it. Then years later, my brother submitted it in his English class. And he was the professor made everyone else rewrite their papers. They gave him 100%, and then they set up a meeting with him to meet with the professor and the dean of the English department, and he thought for sure that they'd figured out that he'd plagiarized it
Oh,
from me.
no.
And when they got him in there, they were trying to convince him to go into English as a major and and write that as his doctoral
Huh.
thesis. And in that same meeting, he told them that he was dropping out and trying to join the Navy.
Oh,
So,
Jesus.
yeah, he didn't even finish the
Wow.
semester. Yep.
Mark, you got anything else you want to talk about? Mark? So, Tim, while Mark's gone, do you want to remind everybody like where they can pick up your merch? Because, by the way, those shirts are awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I don't even have one yet, Jim.
I got 2 of them. I got 1 of each.
You
I
beat me
did.
to it. Yeah, so TimothyKingAuthor.com has got all the merchandise. I've got shirts on there. I've got mugs, phone cases, which I don't know if anybody's in order, but somebody told me they were interested.
Yep.
Working on getting posters.
Yeah, I want a poster of that book
and
cover. Not gonna lie.
I do too. It is really cool. The crazy thing with that book cover is that when I sent it off to the designer, what the cover is, that was almost the identical to the first one that sent me. I had to make 2 revisions, and that was
Yeah, I
it.
remember we talked about that earlier, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I'm amazed. But you did, if I'm not mistaken, you said somebody sent you a picture that you based it off of, right?
Yeah, so there's a TikToker. Her name's Brooke. Trying to think of what her TikTok handle is. She actually runs Terror Monthly, which is every month they will release a new collection of short
Right.
stories. And she also does a thing called Written in Carnage, which is extreme
Yep.
horror. Same
I've
idea. I
I've
don't
seen
think
those
it's monthly.
videos from like Karen and Veronica.
Yeah, it's way more extreme though. So the Written in Carnage stuff, I don't recommend unless you are already into that
Right.
scene, because you don't want to start there. But she is also a painter, and her and I were talking one day, and I was telling her what the book was about. This is months ago, before the book was even done. And she beta read the first 6 chapters for me
Wow.
or so, and she painted that picture.
Nice.
based on what she did. So I use that as kind of my inspiration to give to the designer for the cover. Yeah. It's been good. And then if anybody wants to pick up the book, it's available on Amazon. It's Seven Rabbits. Like I said, it's a home invasion horror slasher revenge. It's getting a lot of movie comparisons to Strangers, You're Next, those kind of things. I do warn people, or try to warn people, it may not be for everyone, because there are a lot of triggers. There's a lot of violence against women, sexual assault, violence against teenagers. It is a very violent book. The one thing that I really wanted to do, though, and I'm hoping that I nailed it, and so far the feedback is I wanted to do it in a tasteful and respectful way, and not glorify any of that stuff. And so far the feedback that I've gotten, especially amongst women, since unfortunately they were the target of a lot of the violence in the book, has been that it's very true to how they felt when they've been put in situations like that, and that it's been done very tastefully. So I'm pretty happy with that response.
Oh,
awesome.
Done tastefully? Oh no, I'm not reading that now.
It's not one of your Italian horror
Right.
books, Mark.
There's no eyeball or foot rape in this one, right?
I do like some extreme stuff, I have to say.
Yeah, he's not as averse as I am.
But I understand that some people, it's difficult compared to maybe what they've had to deal with in life, watching or reading something.
That's
But
right.
to me, I can always separate the fiction from reality stuff pretty easily.
And not all of us had the privilege of going to an all boys school, did we, Mark?
That is true, Jim. You wish.
No, not so much.
I can just hear the jealousy coming out from you.
I was waiting to see where that was going. I wasn't going to comment on it.
It's okay. You can comment all you want, because there's nothing you can say that Mark hasn't already said.
I'm pretty extreme.
Yeah, he is. He's a bit extreme. Yeah. I don't know why. I put up with him. Makes good content, I guess.
Yeah, you have to have somebody on the podcast.
Exactly.
Right?
Might as well be him, I guess.
I guess so.
Nobody else would do this.
That's true. That's probably true. And your wife's thankful I do this.
Leave my wife out of your mouth.
Gives her a couple hours of a break.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly how she pitches it to me every time I talk to her.
No. How's Ray doing, Jim?
He's sleeping. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Well, no, I just asked him.
Anyway,
Anyway,
that was a weird segue, but whatever.
Of this podcast, Timothy, I want to really thank you for coming on, and we would want you back on if you want to get back on.
Yep, anytime.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know.
And again,
after you do a little bit of homework.
Oh yeah. I gotta hit my movies first and come
not
back
all
with
of
my,
them. Just
dissertation.
not all of them. Just a few. Pick up one or two, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, if you're heading to Spooky Empire, you don't even have to be
Perfect. Yeah, I will. I'll message you guys, and I'm sure we'll probably meet up at some point.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Just let me know anytime. I'd be more than happy to come on and hang out with y'all and talk movies. I mean, at some point, I got to come on and tell you guys how I felt about the Sacrament VHS 2, Ninth Configuration, Dagon, The Lighthouse, and The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I got them all written down.
You do, and you have to come back on here so you can hear what I thought about your book after it releases on April 1st.
Only if you give me a good review.
I'm just
you're
kidding,
not
coming back on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm harder on books than I am on movies. I'm harder.
That's okay. I'm confident.
I'm harder on books than I am on movies.
That's all right. I'm confident it'll hold up.
I'm pretty confident myself.
We'll find out, I guess, in about a month.
Right, exactly. As soon as Amazon drops that on my doorstep, that'll be the first thing I read.
April 1st. April Fool's
Cannot
Day.
wait. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.